ba ba ba. There's a theme song. We
Theme
don't have
song.
one yet,
Not
but
yet.
it'll be
Okay.
here eventually.
Well, eventually. Okay. We are here for the first episode of
Yeah.
Videodrones.
Episode 1, take 2.
Yeah, it was weird. We recorded it, and I put it onto my hard drive, and all of a sudden, the file was replaced with this corrupted line of text that said, "Don't sleep." And I don't know what it means, but it's there, and I imagine it's some sort of cryptic message from beyond. So
Yeah, the emblem from Ghost in the Shell shows up with a laughing man.
yeah, exactly. It's our lost Squidward episode of SpongeBob.
Lost Squidward episode.
It's the episode of The Simpsons where Bart commits suicide, that sort of good stuff. The
Yeah.
lost episodes, Candle Cove.
It's okay, we got it out of the way. I don't think there is a single content creator on the face of the earth who doesn't have one episode lost to the tech goblins
Absolutely.
of Dimension Zero. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man, what can you do? What can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah, it's the interdimensional. You know who I blame actually?
Yeah.
Hillary
Who is
Clinton.
it? Yeah, of course.
Hillary Clinton. It's the
She runs the internet.
It's the shape shifting,
The
pedophile,
lizard people, the lizard
blood-sucking
Illuminati.
Democrats. I love
Oh
how he
my
says
God.
Democrats. Anyway,
I'll eat my neighbors.
I'll eat your ass. I'll eat your ass.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
best
I love it.
soundbite.
Okay.
Best soundbite 2020. Best thing to happen in this year so far is him
Okay,
saying, "I'll eat your ass."
I'm glad we have the episode started off with a couple solid Alex Jones references.
Yeah,
We're off
man.
to a great start.
Yeah, we got to reference at least 5 or 6 podcasts throughout. We
Yeah.
got to reference shows that
5 or
have
6
nothing to do
podcasts.
with what we're talking about. It's good
Exactly.
stuff. So
just to fill everybody in
Yeah.
for what the lost episode might be, it'll be a lot of this, but way better, and you'll never hear it. The genius that we lost. I'm so sorry for all of you.
so much insight,
That's that.
philosophy.
Oh gosh, you would have changed your life, but it's neither here nor there anymore.
The only thing I can really compare it to is the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
Right? Yeah, naturally.
It's a
Yeah.
great loss of knowledge and culture, and the society mourns the
Yep.
loss of our analysis of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's right.
And,
it was insightful in the same way as the first time you read the Da Vinci Code, or the second time you watched the Da Vinci Code.
You gotta love Dan Brown, man. You gotta love Dan Brown. Oh, he can spin a tale, that's for sure.
You can spin a tail
Yeah.
like a web.
So we should probably reintroduce ourselves.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a quick.
Yeah, let's we took way too long to do it last time. So
Yeah, I know.
we're gonna keep it a bit brief this time. But Sam, why don't you start it off here, or Atlas Hugs, Sam?
Atlas Hugs, yes. Atlas Hugs on Twitch. You can find me there. On Instagram and YouTube as well. Same name.
Links in the description.
Links in the description. Like and subscribe. Smash that bell.
Smash
yeah,
that
so-
show more button.
Yeah, so I work in theater and improv and just kind of sketch comedy and stuff. And I have always been a huge self-proclaimed cinemaphile. I love movies and I love TV and video games. I just love art in general, modern media, modern art, I should say, because video games are art. And yeah, I've much like the main character in one of the shows we will get to. Movies are a magical experience, and especially when you're young and full of the light of the world.
Piss
they
and
bring you
vinegar.
to Piss and vinegar. That's right. So I'm happy to be doing this. I'm happy to just talk about art with you.
Yeah,
we've been
absolutely.
friends forever, so
Yeah, we've
feels like a good fit.
yeah, we've been doing it for 10 plus years at this point now anyway, so we
Yeah.
might as well.
We've been talking about movies for 10 years. We might as well record it.
Yeah, well, let's archive this stuff,
Yeah, right.
So that's your introduction, Sam. You feel like
Yeah,
that
buddy.
properly summarizes you? I just want to make sure.
I feel like right now that's pretty good. I can
Yeah.
always expand later on if people have burning questions about me.
Well, you're also a burgeoning Twitch streamer, coming
That's
up on
true.
the heels of Shroud, Ninja.
Yes.
all the
Yes,
all the
one
pro
day I
streamers.
too will jump ship to another platform that has less viewers overall.
Oh yeah, I guess that is their commonality. I just assume like they're both really popular. I don't know shit
Yeah,
about
they're
Twitch.
both really popular and then signed a deal and now aren't as popular.
Yeah, R.I.P. R.I.P. the dream.
R.I.P.
Remember Ninja and Drake?
Remember Ninja Turtles? Oh man, what a time!
What a
Holy
time.
crap! I don't want to go on
Yeah.
a tangent on that right now, but
Yeah,
but you
Jesus.
why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay. So my name is Tony. I am Urban Brawl on Twitch and Twitter, and yeah, I am a student. Currently, I'm an undergrad student at a university studying geography and urban studies. I'm a critical theorist and urban theorist, that sort of dealio. So I talk a lot about things that people don't really care about all that much, but it is what it is, and
You'll
I
find
love
your
it
niche.
regardless. I found my niche exactly.
Find your niche.
I am a huge lover of video games, movies, music, comic books, books, like every sort of art. Just as my buddy Sam here, I just kind of like consuming whatever is available. Recently, I've really been into video essays on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
A lot of really good stuff on YouTube available, and yeah, my favorite game ever, Nier Automata, defining feature of my personality. I love it so much. It's my favorite, and I will bring it
Yeah.
into any conversation whenever I humanly can.
I can attest to
Yes, and you will find
Very
this
much
out, viewers, very, very quickly. And one of my other favorite pieces of media would be On Cinema, which is made by Tim Heidecker and Greg Turkington, and that's something I've been going through recently again, and that kind of brings us into the first episode of what we're going to be
first show to
doing.
talk
Our
about
first
today.
show, our first show of the podcast, technically, which would be
Technically, yeah.
Beef House.
Yeah.
Beef House, the episode 1, Army Buddy Brad. But before we do that, yeah, Army Buddy Brad, man.
Yeah.
Before we do that, let's kind of talk about like how we know each other and like what our deal is, because I feel like we have a really good friendship, like a long-standing dynamic that might need a bit of explaining.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
So
before that, MeUndies is brought to you by MeUndies.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah,
Get
fuck
your
yeah.
5,000 gold gems if you
no
sign up
thank
with
you.
our promo code.
And don't start me on
yeah.
Audible. You know all about Audible.
Listen, one day when we release the last episode, you'll know all of his opinions about Audible.
Yeah, my voice distorts. There's actually two voices that are coming out of me at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Kind of a dark sort of like lizard horned creatures in your chest speaking through you. Yeah.
That kind of sounds like Joanna Newsom singing, like a little bit, like a really, really high pitched squeal. Good stuff.
Shout out to Joanna Newsom. She needs it.
Big shout out to Joanna Newsom.
Big shout out to Joanna.
I got a photo of her on my wall, man. I love her. She's my girl. She's my girl. Yeah. So
we've been friends for 10 years. It's since the beginning of high school.
yeah.
And gosh, yeah, you're one of my best buds. We've spent
Absolutely.
many an afternoon sitting away just watching movies back to back and dissecting them like a bunch of little nerds,
Hell yeah.
and having a great time doing it. And yeah, we are super supportive of each other on Twitch, so you'll often see us linking to each other's profiles.
Yep.
And yeah, we know each other forever, and like this is a great excuse just to get to hang out with my best friend every week and just like chat about bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yep. Talk
It's,
about TV, and this
yeah.
way we both get to kind of diversify our pool of things that we can
Yeah.
watch, and it kind of forces us into diversifying our media pool, as well as being able to just have a conversation together. And I know everybody and their mothers is starting a podcast right now,
so why not
because
do
of
it
the
too?
quarantine. And yeah, I feel like we've got some cool things to say, and I think that this will be a good podcast. I think that this will be a good show to kind of explore things, not from a unique perspective necessarily, but from an informed perspective, and from
an informed and enthusiastic perspective. I
Yeah.
think at the very least,
a passionate one.
Yeah.
Passionate
passionate one,
and
for
genuine, I
sure.
think. Genuinely
Yeah.
passionate. Both of
Right.
us. Both of
That's
us
what I think,
have
and
that in
that's
spades.
what I'll do my best to deliver. Yeah.
I think that we won't. You for sure won't have any problem doing so. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, just to I think just to explain the concept really
Oh, yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
No,
so
that
like
makes
every
sense.
episode, we'll be coming at it with either an episode of TV or a movie. Like he'll suggest something, I'll suggest something, we'll both go away and we'll watch those things. We'll take notes and we'll come back and discuss it. That way, we're both kind of sharing and something that we enjoy or something we've been interested in. Either it's something that we're experiencing for the first time, both of us, or something that one of us is familiar with and trying to look at from a more critical perspective, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we just sit and chat about it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I think like to start off, it'll likely be movies, restricted to movies and
Hmm.
TV. Kind of just like shows that we've been meaning to watch but haven't watched for
Hmm.
whatever reason. And yeah, and movies that like one of us has been recommending to the other and the other
Hmm.
one hasn't watched it yet or something like that. Like I think Snowpiercer would be a great
Hmm.
episode to do.
Yeah,
Because
because you still haven't seen it, right?
I haven't seen it. No, I know
Okay,
about it. I've heard about it. They've talked about it in film school, but I mean, I've
dude.
never seen it. I've never seen it. So I
I've
think
watched it like 6 times, so I'm down.
I know it's one of your favorites. So I think that would be a
Go
good
ahead.
future episode. But when we have something like that, that's a bit more intensive. Maybe we stick to that one subject that one week, and then we alternate to like a movie the next week or something. We want
Hmm.
this to be very free form. We don't
Yeah,
want this podcast to be like stringently structured. I
yeah.
think that just speaking for both of us, I think that can be said, and we hope to
Definitely.
kind of bring in people that we love and like our friends. We have a pretty solid like large friend group. I know one of our friends, fellow streamer Gidim, is hot on his heels to
On
guest
his
on this
heels.
podcast. So
Yeah,
we'll make sure to get him on as soon as possible. Same thing with Gambit.
yeah.
And yeah, we'll kind of decide on who guests on when, like
Hmm.
depending on what content we're covering.
Yeah,
And you know, if we'll just see how it goes. I think
yeah.
like a main inspiration of this would be like watch out for fireballs.
Big time.
Just to reference some podcasts
So
that we kind
let's
of
really
like.
quickly reference a couple on a row
Yeah,
right here so we can get the quota
exactly,
up. Yeah.
exactly. Not the 10-minute podcast. This one's going to be long as shit.
This is gonna be long as shit.
Some
Yeah,
podcasts
yeah,
are long, and that's us.
yeah.
So we're gonna have a long podcast. But Watch Out for Fireballs is kind of like a podcast where it's like a book club where these two
Hmm.
guys who genuinely like each other just get together and have like a long form discussion going over the
Yeah.
story beats of something individual. And I think that would be fun in the context of kind of like a Painkiller Already podcast
Yeah.
type structure where you have people coming in and out and able to kind of comment on whatever they want to comment on, or
Yeah.
add their own notes, add their own discussion points, or just hang out and add some content. And some weeks we won't. Some weeks we'll have somebody. Some weeks
Yeah.
we won't. But yeah, I just thought
Well,
that we
I
would.
think that's more in line with like an actual book club. It's like, yeah, have
Yeah,
people who come by once a session or whatever, and
yeah,
they suggest a book or whatever. Like I'm super excited to see what this becomes. You know what I mean? Like we've got all these grand ideas, and we
yeah,
just have to keep working on it. So thank you for
exactly.
being here for the first episode of our weird
Yes,
experimental journey.
yes. Thank you, friends. Thank you,
Yeah.
friends. Much
Yes.
appreciated. I know we're doing a soft launch, so our
Yeah.
close friends and family will probably see this first.
Yeah.
But
So
we
look under your chair. It's a car.
it's a fucking Toyota Neon or something like that.
Yeah. I
Um,
sent all of you a gift. All the people who get this episode first, you all get a gift.
not a car, man. Not a car.
Not a
I
car?
need
Not a
money. I
car?
don't need to spend money.
Oh shit! You should
Oh
have told me
fuck.
that before. I did it. I used your credit card, dude.
Oh, what can you do, man? What can you
What can
do?
you
What's
do?
happened has happened. Okay, so let's start off. We're gonna do
Pop in a beef house.
yeah, we're gonna do Beef House. Start off with
Mhm.
that, and we'll take a quick break, take a quick little water bathroom intermission, and then
Yeah,
we'll
man.
come back and we're gonna cover the first episode of Hollywood, which is
Hollywood, the
called
Netflix original Hollywood.
Hooray for Hollywood, a Netflix
That's right.
original. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so Beef House. Beef House starts off immediately just like a network sitcom. Like it's got a laugh track. It's got like a really well lit suburban home. And the family structure in the home is immediately very confusing, because there's there's Tim and Eric, and Tim and Eric are the linchpins of the universe essentially.
Yeah.
They're like the seemingly the main creators. I don't know. I didn't really look at the credits, so there could be like Notarin Cola, the guy who directs on cinema. He could be involved, that sort of thing. But as far as I know, it's Tim and Eric. So Eric is living in this house with Jamie Lynn Spiegler, who is Meadow Soprano from The Sopranos.
That's right. Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
watching,
she's
I was
from.
like, who is this? I know this.
Yeah, she's from The Sopranos. She's a big character, huge character. So they're living in this house with Eric's best friend Tim. So they that's already a confusing situation. But they also live with these three men who all have really thick accents and who can't deliver a line for their life. Like they're just
the Beef Boys.
the
As they
Beef
referred
Boys.
To.
Yeah, it's a beef house.
It's a beef house.
So this is immediately confusing, and I have a note here that literally says at the top, I don't know if you could see it, immediately confused. Literally immediately confused.
I have a note. My first note is, this is the most Tim and Eric shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, big time Tim and Eric thing.
Which if you have no in the future, I would love to introduce sort of a way for us to, like, we have a Twitter for the show and we like tweet out like, here's what episodes we're watching, so like maybe check them out yourselves so you can kind of listen or think along with us during the episodes. But I think, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, what's Tim and Eric, I don't know, go check it out.
Yeah, there's no way to explain it.
I don't know if you'll like it. There's no way to explain it. Tim and Eric is the most absurdist, weird sketch comedy show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
One of, if not the strangest one.
I think it is.
I guarantee anybody listening to this, you have seen memes from it on the internet before, though. If you Google it and you'll be like, oh, okay, I've seen both of these people on Reddit in GIF form at one point or another.
Yeah, you got Spaghetti, you've got
Free Real Estate.
Free Real Estate, you've got the You Blew It, you've got
It's For Your Health.
It's free. Yeah, For Your Health came from that. Steve Brule came from that. God, I can't even remember all of the skits because there are so many and they kind of blend together. There's the Bowel, where it's like it's a bat and an owl mixed together, and it's like a toy, and they make these like really horrifying toys. Bob Odenkirk is involved. He's like a close friend of theirs, as far as I can tell. Bob Odenkirk is just the coolest dude. I love that guy.
Fun,
He's on the coolest stuff. He's always doing fun stuff.
He did that. He was on a live show recently for Second City Chicago. They were doing sketch comedy over like Zoom, like people could
no
watch
shit.
it. Or not sketch, but improv comedy over Zoom. And he was on that special. It was pretty sweet.
That's fun.
He's just a really cool dude.
Send that over to me, actually. I'd be interested in seeing that. Because he did the Man Show as well. People forget about the Man Show with Rogan, and I mean that show sucked. That show was horrible and really, really not good. I think there's a reason why it's being
very
shelved.
Problematic.
There's definitely a reason why it's being shelved for the better half of 2 decades now.
Yeah, and also his show with Bob Cross. Bob and David, or David Cross. Sorry, David Cross. Bob Odenkirk and David Cross.
I don't know that show. I've never heard of that show.
It's a sketch. It's a sketch show. It's on Netflix.
Sorry, what's it called again?
Similar. Bob and David.
Bob and David. Okay.
Or just look up Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, and you'll find it.
Cool.
But yeah, a sketch show very much in the same vein as Tim and Eric, of just like, it's super weird.
Yeah.
Like there's a sketch where this guy is dying because he can't stop eating red meat. Like all he eats every day, all day long, is red meat. So he's on his deathbed and he's eating ribs, and they're like, you have to stop, you're gonna die. And he's like, I can't, it's too good. And he's eating them, and he's just like, he's dying, and he dies. It's like that's the kind of stuff that they do. It's just bizarre. It's funny.
I'm a big fan of that kind of like surrealist humor, so I'll have to check that out for sure.
Oh man.
But yeah, Tim and Eric.
Back to, fucking
There's no real way to describe it in any real manner. And the On Cinema stuff is the same. I don't think that there's any real way to describe it in a way that would be appealing to anybody.
The Tim and Eric cinematic universe
is
something to behold.
It really is.
I both envy and despair for anyone who wants to look into it after they watch this.
Yeah, absolutely, because it gets dark. It gets real dark sometimes. R.I.P. Those TV news reporters, which was Tim and Drag. I forget the name of the
Yeah.
woman, but I loved her.
Yeah.
So the episode setup is it's Easter.
Yeah.
And
We're back to
Eric,
Beef House. Beef House episode 1 here.
yeah, Beef House episode 1 called Army Buddy Brad. It's
Yeah.
an Easter episode. So it starts off and Eric is painting eggs and placing jewels onto them, like placing like intricate jewels,
Yeah.
and like waxing poetic essentially about it. And Tim enters the scene and he's wearing one of his patented way too big suits, like massive Easter suit. It's like an Easter themed suit, and
Patented.
it's horrifying. No, if you look at the On Cinema universe, every time he's meant to wear a suit, it's at least
Gotcha.
4 or 5 sizes too big.
Okay.
And
that's
he's got
very
like
funny.
a tie that like goes like down past his crotch, like that sort of thing. Like it's really bad. And it happened like I think it's like climax happened during the trial because they have a mock trial and he has to wear a new suit every day. And the suits
Right.
are like if he jumped out of a plane, he would be fine.
You could parachute
He'd be
down to-
totally fine. He'd fall.
Okay.
He'd go down like a wingsuit, like in that game Steep. So it's an Easter fashion show,
Yeah.
and the Beef Boys have all dressed up in their various Easter outfits, and essentially,
Listen to yourself.
I know. Yeah, I know. So they're having an Easter fashion show, and one of the Beef Boys
In the living
starts
room.
starts doing some sexy karate, and and asks Tim if he liked the sexy karate, and he did like the sexy karate. I thought I
like my sexy karate?
I liked it. I thought it was good.
They all have the thickest accents. It's
Yeah.
So,
And
it's so funny.
You really can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
And the black fella, he really like speaks slowly, as far as I remember. He and not clearly at all. Like all of them. Anyway, it's
They're all
very surreal.
hard to understand, and I think that's very much on purpose. It feels like they hired people who aren't actors.
Yeah,
very
that's what
much
they
on
always do.
purpose. Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it has that same kind of like, everything about this is a little off-putting. Just
Yep.
that kind of vibe. It's just like, okay, I don't know if any of this is supposed to be good or on purpose. It just has a kind of like a very, I don't know, improvised meticulously vibe.
Hmm. And
Like,
the thing is, it feels like a regular network sitcom, but it's got like these kind of Tim and Eric like
yeah,
bits inserted into them that really make it like surreal and super dark.
yeah. Dude,
like scary.
They nail the style like right away. Like
100%.
the visual style of the show is spot on for that kind of late 90s, early 2000s American family sitcom that they're going for.
Everybody
Like,
loves Raymond, King of Queens.
Everybody loves Raymond, yeah, all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like it just is spot on. The
It's-
look of it,
yeah.
the set deck, everything about it is just literally perfect. And then it's interesting, I'll get into this point
Mm-hmm.
once the Army Buddy Brad shows up. But
Well, he's about to show up.
Yeah.
I was about to say that Army Buddy Brad shows up amidst the Easter Day fashion show.
yeah.
And it was sorry. Army Buddy Brad shows up in the middle of the Easter fashion show, and so does Meadow Soprano, Jamie Lynn Spiegler's character. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, Brad, my old boyfriend." And Brad is like this guy who probably did like amateur wrestling in the 90s, like really like scary looking dude. Very
like,
scary.
This guy is 65.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
everyone in this house is elderly. Like
Yeah.
the Beef Boys, everyone is like late 50s and up. So Army Buddy Brad shows up from the war. He's 65. He's a corporal. He's 65, right? Which I thought everything about this character was hilarious to me, because they keep dropping references about like being in the war, back in the war, and all I could think of is like, yeah, Vietnam or like the Gulf, right? Because like, there's no way. Like, and she's like, we were high school sweethearts, but then he went off to the war, and I'm like, high school sweet. This guy's been at war for 45 years.
This guy must have been in high school when he was like 29, like 30 years old.
He's been off at Vietnam for 40 years and he's only a corporal. What did he do?
He really loves the work.
He
loves
loves
it.
the work. He loves getting his hands dirty. He loves physical labor.
Oh, he's passionate.
Everything about this character was absolutely bonkers to me.
Yeah, he was really hilarious, but also incredibly scary at some points in the episode.
Really upsetting.
Which we will get to. So I have a note here that this is an incredibly odd place for Meadow Soprano to land. Like, I have to say, this is like really strange to see her, who, like, she was really good in The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that this isn't good. And I know that she had some health issues for a while, which I think precluded her from acting for like a good amount of time, or at least acting like on the same scale that she did in The Sopranos. And it's just very odd to see her go from The Sopranos to being in like a Tim and Eric show that's certainly not going to last past a single season.
No,
It's almost certainly not going to last. Like, and I love Tim.
So niche. It's so niche.
But yeah, it's like so niche that it's really going to alienate most people who are watching it, who did not grow up explicitly watching like early 2000s, 90s like family sitcoms.
Yeah, I have a note here that's like, if this show is your introduction to Tim and Eric, you won't make it to the second episode.
No, absolutely
I specifically
not.
wrote that down.
That's a very good point. You're absolutely right. And I think same thing with like On Cinema.
Niche, it's like the room that Harry Potter lives in under the stairs. Like, that's what it feels like watching this. Like, you feel suffocated by how intense it is.
It's really intense. Like, it's concerning, and it's only 10 minutes long. And I was like, okay, we should do 2 episodes of this.
It felt longer.
Yeah, I was like, we should do 2 episodes of this because it's 10 minutes, so like we could do 20 minutes and then it'll be even. And then I got through the end of the first episode and I was like, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah,
there's a lot
that was too much.
That they like essentially took out all of like the like superfluous like Robert dissing Raymond or like Frank saying oh crap out and just condensed a sitcom episode into 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Very intense.
Distilled it into its pure essence.
Yeah, and like a sitcom,
like the essential oil of sitcom.
Yeah. And a sitcom by its essence is supposed to be like relaxing and kind of like calming in a way, because you know that the whatever happens next week or whatever happens this episode, it's going to be fine next week. It's like watching The Simpsons. It's like watching like Family Guy. Like, Brian can get killed in one episode and then just be retconned back in like 3 or 4 episodes later.
Yeah, because there's no chronology or anything.
Okay, bye. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Sorry about that, viewers.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that they nailed the sitcom kind of atmosphere like immediately. But Army Buddy Brad shows up and he, like, Tim had just said that Eric was his best friend, and then Army Buddy Brad comes in and he's like, that guy's my best friend. I love that guy. We were in the army together. And I'm like, how old is Tim? Because if he's in the army with him, like, how fucking old is this guy? We need to figure out the ages of these people, because it's disconcerting.
They're all 60 playing 30-year-olds.
Exactly.
Like, that's how it feels. It's super strange.
Yeah, I don't enjoy it, but it's funny as hell.
Dude, it feels like a Steven Seagal movie.
It's a good way to put it.
If you've watched any recent Steven Seagal movies, like, Steven Seagal's like in his late 60s now, but he still acts and directs every movie like he's this hot shit. It's like he's like an 80s action star. He's fighting everybody while he's sitting down in a chair.
He's still in 1985.
Oh yeah, he never got past it.
No.
All of his films, he just casts all of these like ex-wrestlers who are all like super old now. Everybody in his movies is like the same age as him, or like he'll cast one really young martial artist to do all the cool fighting while he sits in a chair and punches a guy to death.
Do you know the story about him and Anderson Silva?
No.
He had asked Anderson Silva, who was the UFC middleweight champ, if he could coach him, and Anderson Silva was like, this is hilarious. I'm the middleweight champion and you are an Aikido guy. Sure thing. So he flies out to wherever Steven Seagal is, and he essentially like lets him train him for like 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And then if you like look at like Anderson Silva, Steven Seagal interview or whatever, you'll see Steven Seagal being like, yeah, I taught Anderson Silva the front kick. I taught him the front kick that knocked out Chris, whoever the fuck he knocked out, Vitor Belfort. It's like,
Yeah.
you are an asshole, dude. You are an asshole. And now Anderson Silva in like Portuguese is essentially like mocking him on like Brazilian TV, but obviously Steven Seagal doesn't speak Portuguese, so what the fuck does he know?
Yeah,
Anyway,
he thinks he's talking. He thinks he's a huge fan of his.
fucking Steven Seagal, man.
Watch
Okay,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah, let's get back to this. I could talk about Steven Seagal all day.
So could I, man. So could I. So yeah, odd place for Meadow Soprano to land. Doesn't feel unlike a sitcom. So it doesn't feel unlike a sitcom, but it manages like the surreality that we were talking about, that that kind of breaks tropes, but it also adheres to them like really strictly. So
yeah, I have a note here that's like, this is a very basic sitcom setup of like, old friend comes to visit and shakes up the relationship dynamics. Like that's a very basic sitcom setup, but then they just take it to an 11 almost immediately. Like, you know,
like,
and
really, really pushing the limits of what the viewer understands.
Yeah, like I have another thought here that was like, this is perfectly illustrating how ridiculous sitcoms are at a base level, because the conceit in a sitcom is that like a perfectly innocuous situation can be blown out of proportion because of the characters that are involved.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. Because how often has an old friend come to visit and then caused a huge schism in your friend group? You know what I mean? Like, how often does that happen in real life? How often is like, oh yeah, my buddy from college is coming over, and then he shows up and everyone's like, it's either us or
like
him,
this
man.
guy. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It happens
Like,
all the time.
When does that happen? You know?
But it's also like that's such a classic sitcom thing. You're absolutely right. Thinking about it, it is a really like tropey thing. Like there's even an episode of It's Always Sunny where they unironically do that, where they have like a friend Schmitty come back, and Charlie hates Schmitty because he does the butt dance better than him, and he just hates him inexplicably. So yeah, it really does kind of like follow the tropes, but it also subverts them in an interesting way. Like, I actually have a note here saying like an Easter fashion show would work well in the New Girl, or in New Girl, but like this feels like it's in an uncanny valley, like in between this kind of anti-comedy. Like Tim really doesn't like the word anti-comedy because he seemingly misunderstands it. But he says like being like anti-comedy is like trying to be not funny, but I think that anti-comedy is more like taking like existing structures of comedy and kind of using them against itself, like kind of cannibalizing the structure by using it. And that's what he does seemingly with all of his projects, like with Check It Out, with Tim and Eric Awesome Show, with On Cinema at the Cinema, and now with this too. Like the breadth of their work is really impressive. And I don't want to give all the credit to Tim because Eric is just as much involved as far as I know. And I think that he kind of gets pushed to the sidelines a little bit, which is unfair, considering he's the best part of Master of None as well.
I agree. Yeah, he's great in that show.
Oh, I love that show. I love that show so much. I would love to cover that actually. I would love to cover.
I'd be interested in covering that. We have to address how we feel about Aziz Ansari overall, but
you know what?
We can get into that.
That you know what? That's a conversation for another episode. But
for sure.
You know what? What the fuck do I know? I see a show. Like, if the guy is being like explicitly outed like Harvey Weinstein or like whatever, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions necessarily. Like, I'll definitely believe women for sure, but if what I have to believe is that Aziz Ansari is a shitty date and is super awkward in real life, but is still able to make like impactful comedy while not being a predator, then I mean I'm down to keep watching his shit. Cool. Like, I'm not gonna
that whole art versus artist conversation is something that we will have eventually.
100%. Yeah,
I definitely don't want to get into that in our first episode.
No, that would that's dicey territory for sure. So Brad, essentially
Army Buddy Brad.
Yeah, Army Buddy Brad, he sets up camp in the living room after Eric says, no, you can't stay here, because he's offended.
Can I just say that I love this set? I love
It's
the camp
great.
set. It's really
It's
fun.
really good. Yeah, it's
I was watching. And I
surprising.
was like, oh, dude, I would do this in my living room
Hell yeah.
if I could. Like,
But how does he have so much stuff?
he
That's
literally. He comes in with just a green duffel bag. He comes
yeah.
in with like a military duffel bag,
He
and
seems
then
homeless.
yeah, and then I guess he had a truck outside because he literally moved in a whole forward operating base worth of equipment.
Yeah, it's like Hermione's bag or something like that. Like, how
Yeah.
much are you carrying in that duffel bag, guy? And you definitely like you don't have the funds to make that though. Like what?
No.
It, but these are the things you can't ask questions about in these
So
types
fun.
of
Like,
shows.
he's got a tent. He's got camo nets. He's got barbed wire. He's got an RPG and rifles just laying on the ground.
Just
He's
strewn
got, like,
everywhere.
just strewn everywhere. There's like massive cases, like
Yep.
ammunition cases and stuff. Like it's just this set. I love this set. It's so funny.
It's really clever. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I like it a lot. And
Yeah.
he ends up waking up everybody in the house with a bugle, which they all seem totally fine with. They
Yeah.
are not upset at him really at
Yeah.
all,
Eric
even though
is
it's
the
like
only
4 or
one who was
5
pissed
a.m.
off.
Yeah, because he's the mark. He's the straight man who can't see
Yeah.
past like the past of Army Buddy
The
Brad.
kooky antics.
But it's not
Yeah.
it's not for anything but the fact that he is the ex-boyfriend of his wife, and that Tim likes him better than he likes Eric, which I think is
Yeah.
a fun little petty kind of difference. So he wakes him up with a bugle, and then they kind of just go about their day. I don't think there's anything really plot heavy that goes on throughout this
Yeah.
scene. I didn't note anything down.
This
But
is a little weird and meandery until we get to the bedroom scene with Brad and Tim. I think that's the next.
yeah, I think that would be the next scene. So Tim walks in on Brad sniffing Eric's wife's underwear,
Yeah.
which he
Just the creepiest way he could possibly go about it.
Yeah,
Just
like
super upsetting.
super creepy, super
Yeah.
intrusive, and not okay at all.
Also
And
because this actor looks like he's done some home invasions when he was a kid.
for sure.
Like,
Oh yeah,
this guy has a vibe about him that's like, I've been to prison a couple times.
he's seen some shit. 150%. He's been put in the
Yeah.
brig. 150%.
The brig.
Yeah. And he is sniffing her underwear, and Tim says, "That's off limits. You can't do that. You can't do that." And he's like, "Okay, sorry, man. Essentially, like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And he seems to just kind of forget about it, and then they go on and they start
Yeah,
talking about
immediately.
they start talking about what Tim's been doing recently, and Tim starts talking about the music that he's been making,
Oh yeah.
which is Beach Boys Kokomo era with influences of Moby and Robbie Zombie.
A little bit of Robbie Zombie thrown in for flavor, I think is what he says.
Yeah. So that was really something that I had to pause. I had to pause the show and like kind of reflect on that sentence and think of what that meant.
Oh my god.
And thankfully they actually make the song.
They
and it's at
deliver it
the
in
end.
credits.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with that they were able to
I was
actually
super
kind
happy
of get that vibe. Like they got like the Rob Zombie kind of like drone with the
Yeah.
Kokomo and the electronic in there for the Moby. It was
And just the
impressive.
Super Beach Boys kind of singing tone. Like,
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
happening?
Oh, we missed a scene. Sorry. Brad goes into the kitchen and takes all of Eric's eggs
Right.
that he had hidden around the house. So
That's right.
I have a
Easter
note.
egg hunt.
I have a note about this because there's a lot to unpack here.
True. Yeah.
so-
I can't be skipping over this.
So Eric hides eggs that haven't had the yolks or the egg whites taken out of them. So that's number one. That's number one. And he says there's like 16 around the house. There's 4
Yeah.
people in the house, so they're not all gonna find them. So that's just a stink bomb, just waiting, like a jeweled stink bomb. So that's one. Number
A
two,
bedazzled stink bomb.
yeah. And number 2, Brad comes in and then he takes the eggs and he makes a big thing of scrambled eggs.
Yeah. He finds all of them. He finds
yeah.
all of the eggs.
Every single one. I imagine he found them during his setup of the forward operating base.
No, because he does that afterwards. Because Eric
My bad.
hides the eggs after they get woken up by the bugle. We missed that point.
Okay.
We missed that chronology there, but yeah.
We're
he's
gonna
kind of
get-
going around. He's like, where do I hide these eggs? He like picks up like an old World War II helmet, and he's like putting eggs in the helmet, and they're like
Right.
falling over.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
My
yeah, yeah.
bad.
Now I remember.
We're gonna get
Yeah.
better at this, I promise.
Oh, it's
Um,
fine. This
w-
show is. It feels like a fever dream, so
yeah, a
it's
little
fine.
bit. I'm so hot in here right now. I don't have an AC in right now, and it's boiling hot in my room.
Yeah.
Um, so he makes all of the eggs, he says, with moonshine, tobacco, and a bit of elbow grease. So I wanted to address how tobacco would taste in a batch of scrambled eggs, and also moonshine. And I imagine elbow grease. I really hope it's not actual. Like I hope he's not talking about spitting in it. Is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Because
Yeah.
if he's talking about spitting in that thing, then that's truly the worst dish that's ever been created on
It adds
television.
flavor.
It adds
That's flavor
flavor.
because at this point his spit has seen the world. You know what I mean? From all of his tours.
My God, yeah, you
So
got like some acidic dirt in there from his spit.
yeah,
You've got some like,
you
oh
know,
God, you have
you
no.
taste it like oh, it tastes earthy. It tastes like it's been around the block. It's delicious.
He's the kind of guy who would like sit there and like chew on a bullet too, like just like have a bullet in his mouth, just like
Yeah.
fun, kind of noodling it around.
Just
He reminds
noodling
me.
it around.
I'm gonna bring up "It's Always Sunny" a couple times, just warning.
Yeah, of
but he
course.
reminds me of the
Every show.
Maniac, from the episode "The Gang Wrestles for the Troops" with the Birds of
Right.
War. Have you seen that episode?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's one that's worth watching. But essentially,
Okay.
it's Rowdy Roddy Piper. You know that wrestler.
I
They
do.
got him to be the Maniac. So he's this like old retired wrestler who's doing like the amateur circuit and charging like $25 to cut himself up with barbed wire on a Saturday night wrestling for the troops. And I thought that this guy reminded me a lot of that
Okay.
dude. Which I thought, I don't know, just a banal little comparison. Okay, so Eric freaks out about the eggs being broken, and
Broken,
Tim
cooked up.
slaps the shit out of Eric like a deafening slap, and Eric
Yeah.
just seems to take it and not care about it. So that adds some physical abuse dynamics to the
their
relationship because
Yeah, don't forget that he slaps him and then yells in his face, "That's my best friend.
that's my best
my-
friend.
My war buddy, Brad."
We're in a war.
Yeah, just like super death metally screaming in his face.
He's practiced that over the years and on cinema. His
Oh my
scary
God.
like guttural voice. This is my show. Anything you do belongs to the On Cinema family. Like really, really scary. I will go to bed sleeping every night. I go to bed sleeping. Anyway, I fucking love him. Man. He's an hilarious dude. But he really gets scary.
Yeah,
And,
that whole scene is super upsetting.
Yeah. So anyway, we're back to the bedroom scene where they're talking about
So-
music.
So, that was before.
Yeah.
This next scene is the panty sniffing because
Yeah.
that's important because that's the last time where he adamantly defends Brad to
Yeah.
the point of attacking his other friend.
Exactly.
But now is the turn where he realizes that Brad isn't as good as he thinks he is.
Yeah, everything like it's a 10-minute episode, so everything is going to
Yeah.
matter. Every line has to matter in that episode.
That is one thing. Is everything about this, even as nonsensical as some of it is very deliberate. It feels like.
Yeah, it doesn't feel random or like random access humor, kind of like
I mean,
robot
it's-
chickeny.
It's random because you're watching it and you're like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
But then like, oh wait, no, everything about this is like very carefully crafted.
Yeah.
And like on purpose.
It's meticulously made for sure.
Yeah, meticulously made. Yeah.
100%. So we're back at the panty sniffing scene, and Tim confronts him, but seems not to really care. And then he tells him about his music that he makes, which is Beach Boys Kokomo era with influences of Moby and Robbie Zombie. And Army Buddy Brad really doesn't like that. So he says, "What happened to you, man? You used to be different. You used to like heavy metal and rock back in the war." And Tim really doesn't like that because he loves his music. He's very passionate about his music making.
Mhm.
So Tim essentially leaves the room and says, like, you have to get out. You have to get out. He's about to storm out. You have to get out of this house, Army Buddy Brad. And Brad doesn't have anything, any part of that. He doesn't want to have any part of that. He wants to stay. He likes this place, so he starts squatting. So you have a psychopathic army veteran who obviously has seen unconscionable carnage and war in
And
his
who also
life.
has a literal arsenal of weapons just strewn about the living room.
Yeah, all around the living room, and none of these people, none of the Beef Boys seem well trained in
No.
in army combat. Tim, he could slap, but he definitely can't slap an M4 out of that dude's
But
hand.
which is so interesting because Tim was in he's a lieutenant. Brad refers to Tim multiple times as "Hello, Lieutenant." Like he
Yeah,
was his superior officer
yeah,
back in the war.
like
But
he
and yet
must have
Tim
been
has
really
absolutely
bad.
yeah, absolutely or like just never left the base or whatever because like he just like it doesn't seem like he's ever seen any kind of action or anything or
Like
have
that
any
guy who
formal training.
graduates high school and just stays at the base, like stays in high school to hang out with
Yeah.
his 16-year-old buddies, like
Yeah, oh
that
my
sort of
god,
thing.
yes.
Fuck.
Exactly. You
Yeah,
know, or yeah, the 19-year-old guy who hangs out with his high school girlfriend. Very much that kind of vibe. But
that's
like yeah,
I never took
it's
that in. That's a good point. I forgot. I didn't notice that. Also,
yeah.
Meadow's a cop, so this
Yeah,
is all
Mel,
happening in a
she's
cop's
a
house.
hard-nosed detective, as the IMDb description puts it. She's a hard-nosed detective
Who forgets her badge at home? Apparently,
who forgets her badge at home
yeah.
constantly.
She's
Yeah,
a klutz.
yeah,
Um,
and like it's so yeah. Now Brad gets really upset. He's like, "I'm not leaving. You can't
mhm.
make me leave." We're starting to get into sort of like the guest vibes right now. Like
Yep,
it's
funny
getting a little
games, like
yeah,
hostage in your own home kind of vibe.
yeah,
You have to get this person out.
yeah.
Um,
So
so,
and during this conversation, Eric and the Beef Boys are at
mhm.
the door,
Oh
listening in.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So they're
To which Ben-Hur says, I don't know, I actually don't remember what the character's name is, but the actor I know his name Ben-Hur, and he's like, oh shit, it seems like the beef house has been occupied by the enemy. The beef house is under enemy occupation.
yeah.
And Eric is like, we have to hatch a plan to get him out of here. And I think I have just the thing.
And it's so dark. It's so dark.
So dark.
It's
So
like
in Tim and Eric fashion, super dark.
really scary. So,
Yeah.
Army Buddy Brad apparently goes to sleep, and all of a sudden sirens are going off and
Yeah.
gunshots are going off. Like there's
Bombs are falling outside.
and there's lights coming from outside. Like they've set
Yeah.
up this house to like really look like a war zone. And
Yeah.
Tim comes up to Brad and he starts screaming, "They're invading! They're invading! You have to go! They're calling you! They need all available people at the army base now!"
Yeah.
And Brad
Shaking him,
starts
throwing him
sobbing. Brad starts sobbing uncontrollably, like, "I can't do it! I can't go back! I
Yeah.
can't do it!"
Because he's 65. He's retired. he's fucking Rambo coming home
Oh.
from Nam here, okay?
He needs to sit down every 15 minutes. He can't do it, man.
Oh my god.
But
every scene he sits.
he essentially like takes a helmet and the gun that he has, the guns that he has strewn about the room, and
Yeah.
puts it on him while Brad is still in his underwear.
Yeah.
He's essentially in his underwear and a wife beater.
And both camouflaged.
Yeah, yeah.
Both in camo patterns.
Undoubtedly, re-triggering his PTSD that he 150% has, like 150%.
I drew a fun parallel that we'll get into when we start talking about Hollywood, but I drew a fun parallel between the two about how no matter what time period it is, we treat veterans horribly.
Yeah, yeah. That's. I have a note about how shitty America apparently treats veterans as well.
Yeah.
That was some good shit. Yeah, no, that's a fact. So they kick him out, and he ends up leaving. Everybody's happy. Ben-Hur, is that the one of the Beef Boys?
Yeah, one of the Beef
Yeah.
Boys. I don't remember then there's like Klaus and the other guy with the glasses.
Yeah,
I don't know their names. They didn't even really say all their names. I think
No,
they
I
said
don't
them
think they
once
did.
at the beginning and then never again.
Yeah. So essentially it's all being controlled by Ben-Hur, Eric,
Yeah.
and Klaus, I think, and the other Beef
Yeah.
Boy. And they're just in the kitchen. They're like, "Let's crank up the volume." And there's like
Yeah.
laughter happening because it goes from like being shot like it's a war biopic, like a war hero biopic, to being shot like a standard network sitcom. So it's
Yeah.
just It's like going in between the two is really surreal and disconcerting because you're hearing this
Big
laugh
time.
track and then you're going over and you're seeing this guy like being faced with his biggest fear, like going probably out into uncertain or into certain death
Yeah.
that he perceives.
Which I took as like a very smart satire of just like a lot of the real fucked up shit that sitcom audiences just kind of like let shows get away with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh hey,
Yeah.
what's happening is like kind of fucked up, but
Yep.
because we've been so inoculated by the show so far that it's really not an issue. Like we
How
don't
I
take
Met Your
issue
Mother.
with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Barney.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of
Just
the
that kind of
shit
thing
that
is
he.
like, well, so far, I mean, we've done lots of stuff like this, but like kooky fun time. And then you're like, yeah, but like this person's like traumatized for life though. If
Yeah.
this was a real person.
Like, remember the episode where he talks about selling a woman for a
Yeah.
car?
Oh my god.
And you're like, wait, what? Is that a is he being genuine in this story right now? Because if so, somebody needs to contact the authorities because
I know,
this
but
woman was sold to a group of South Korean people for a Mercedes.
Barney is the worst kind of unreliable narrator because the
Oh.
stuff he talks about are crimes.
Yeah, literally crimes.
He's
100%
literally talking about
crimes.
human trafficking right now.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, like, all of this stuff is being told from Ted's perspective. So that's another layer of obfuscation that you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
is
yeah.
this even... Is this a fact? I don't...
Was Ted in on it?
Yeah, probably. He
He's
was
trying to
probably
pin-
on the
He's
take.
trying to pin it all on Barney.
Yeah, he said architecture pay is aggressively average. So
Yeah.
there you
He
go.
had to make that money somewhere.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
exactly.
Ted was Kaiser Soze all along. Ted was Kaiser Soze.
He was the Scranton Strangler all along. Traveling over to Scranton from New York from after his nights at McLaren's.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the episode.
Yeah, he leaves. Oh no. There's one very important scene we didn't get to.
Well, there's one important scene at the end where it comes out of nowhere.
Comes
and
completely out of nowhere.
Eric and Jamie Lynn Spiegler are in bed together, and they're kind of just discussing the day. But Jamie Lynn is not interested in Eric's day at all, and seems to just tolerate him. And which seems to be pretty similar to the relationship we see in Hollywood too.
Yes, yeah. Some very interesting parallels for both of these episodes that I assume are completely coincidental, and but very interesting.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Still comparisons nonetheless.
Yeah.
And he buys her a sex egg, a sex toy.
One of the best ones. The guy. What did he say? Tim works at the store, and his manager said this is the best sex egg they sell.
Yeah, the best motorized sex egg that they can sell, possibly. And
Possibly.
he gives it to her in this like it looks like a big engagement ring box. It's
Yeah,
like very
did like that.
fancy, and
Yeah.
she immediately kicks him out.
Yeah.
So she could
She's
use
like,
it
wow,
on his own.
I'm gonna try this
On
out.
her own. Yeah.
Do you mind?
See ya. Get
Okay.
out of here, please.
Yeah,
Please leave.
I have some chores I could do. That's what he says as
So-
he leaves the room.
So he's just like a super tragic character immediately.
Yeah.
Like right off the bat, you're like, wow, this guy's life is terrible.
Yeah, like they're immediately setting it up as like, oh, he's like the super put upon stay at home husband.
Yeah.
Just like immediately sort of like making fun about like all of these very strange main characters that are like very problematic in sitcoms where like the main character is like, oh, like I'm just this kind of dopey doofus victim husband, but also like I'm kind of a piece of shit though. So
Yeah.
and you'll let it go because I'm very put upon.
Well, it reminded me of a sitcom that I almost never see discussed anywhere, but Yes Dear. Have you ever seen that
okay.
show?
No, I don't think so.
Really bad. Really
bad.
I've tried revisiting it. It's genuinely horrible. I loved it
Okay.
because I really had a crush on one of the characters on it, and I was like 12, so I was like, okay, awesome, this is fun. Terrible show though. But like the main character, the straight man of the show, essentially the setup is like this guy and this wife, woman and man, married. The woman's sister, her husband gets like fired or kicked out of his job, whatever it is, so they have to move in. So they live in the guest house, and then the main family lives in like the main house, and it's essentially like their dynamic. And the husband of the home the homeowner, the
Right.
husband is just constantly bitching and moaning about all of the nice things that all of these people are doing for him, and like all the help he's getting, and like mild inconveniences, just to the point
Yeah.
of being like an insufferable piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he's always made to come across as like this put upon man who's,
Yeah.
oh, he's so hard done by, and
What
he's,
an inconvenience that I have people living in my guest house.
yeah,
I can afford a guest
yeah,
house.
yeah. He's at the point where he can afford a guest house in a sitcom level fucking house, but he can't
Jesus.
tolerate somebody living in his guest house for a certain amount of time. And it went
All
on
of
for like
these
7
sitcom homes
years.
are like $1.5 million homes. Bare
Yeah,
minimum anyway.
easy,
Like,
easy. Yeah, it's got some like Rogan type house vibes.
yeah, seriously.
But yeah, I kind of thought of Eric's character in comparison to him, because he's like constantly complaining, but he's not actually doing anything about it really,
Yeah.
without like of his own volition. He's kind of just like, oh, I'll just wait for somebody else to fix it, or oh, I'll just deal with the situation till it's over. And then he's like, all of a sudden his wife is having her panties sniffed by like this strange army veteran who's like really, really damaged, obviously, and needs serious psychological help. But yeah, that guy was terrifying. This show was very strange, and
It's very strange.
I'm gonna continue to watch it, but hesitantly.
Yes.
Definitely hesitantly.
I don't know if I will. I think I'm going to take a pass on this one.
Fair enough.
And then I will just I'll live through all of the best parts through people posting it on Reddit.
There you go. Yeah, the Tim and Eric subreddit. They'll post all the scenes of Tim yelling at the top of his lungs and the like. So that'll be good.
There are two ways to watch Tim and Eric content. Watch it the whole way through because you're a diehard fan and you love their crazy kookiness, or just watch the highlight reels on Reddit and get the same experience overall.
Pretty much the same experience. Because it is like, despite it being deliberate and not like random access humor, it is random access humor at a certain point. So it is going to be kind of like it's going to be like digestible in many different ways. And there's so many different sketches. It works like any other sketch show would. Like SNL, you don't have to watch SNL from like the first episode to the most recent episode. You can jump into like midway, a third of the way through, and it's not like you're missing any story beats or anything.
Yeah, like most of the returning jokes are good enough to stand on their own without having seen like the original origin of that joke or that character or whatever.
Exactly.
Because if it wasn't, then obviously it wouldn't get returning bits.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Okay, man. Well,
I think is that it for Beef House? I think. Oh,
yeah.
I know. There's one thing I want to talk about that really quickly.
Sure.
Is the fucking transitions, the beef transitions, because I thought it was such a funny. It's such a funny take on like, because every sitcom has like, okay, we cut to commercial, we cut back to an establishing shot of the location that this scene takes place in, either the home or the office, wherever they happen to be. We'll cut to an establishing shot with some kind of jingle or something.
Friends is the biggest example of that, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this show's take on that is they cut to an establishing shot of the house, and then a deep voice goes, "Beef." That's the cut into the show from a commercial break. And I lost my mind the first time, and the second time I laughed even harder. That was probably my favorite part of the show because I was like, "Holy shit! This is." I take it back. This is the most Tim and Eric shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I love that you don't like it, and that you're not gonna finish it, but you still found like a lot of genuine enjoyment out of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There were quite a few parts where I was like, okay, like big brain. I can see and appreciate what they're doing, and the satire here is like a scalpel. But I'm like, okay, one was enough, I think, to get the gist, and I don't think I want to keep going.
Apparently, it gets better as it goes on.
Okay.
According to Tim, and according to like some people in the fan base, as far as I know. Like, I think the 6th episode is supposed to be the best. The 5th or the 6th episode. The season is like $8 on YouTube. Like the whole season is $8. Like that's really reasonable. I bought one episode.
Yeah, that's a good thing. We should talk about like where you watch it on. Yeah, like I just brought it up on YouTube. I bought the first episode on YouTube for like $3.
Yeah, that's a good idea to talk
for the
about
show.
Yeah, all of our stuff, like we're gonna go through all of like the proper means to get
Oh
this
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, even
Like
if
to
something
support.
sucks, I want to at least support the artist. You know what I mean? That's very important. So I encourage
Yeah,
everybody to, yeah, look for it on YouTube. I think it's also available on Adult Swim, but I think that's only America,
yeah.
and that's
So it's
probably just
region
Adult
locked.
Swim. Yeah, Adult Swim
Adult Swim is
subscription.
terrible for that. They're
Yeah,
terrible. All of their
it's
stuff is
hard to find
region
Rick and
locked.
Morty, man. It's hard to find Rick and Morty in Canada in a way that is legitimate. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
you can
have to
buy it
go
on
through
Google Play
cable.
and stuff. Yeah,
You have to go through cable, as far as I can tell. Like you
yeah.
can, it's like you go to Rod, and then it's like, Crave, or whatever, like whatever the
Yeah,
channel is, and then
there's
you can
really no
select it from
streaming
there.
service that has it available. I
No,
think, no, actually, Prime. If anyone has an Amazon Prime subscription, they just added in a feature where they basically have like the streaming versions of cable channels available to like add on to your
oh,
package.
no
So you can
shit.
pay like $3 a month to add like Stack TV or whatever. I think Stack TV has Rick and Morty on it. So if you're on Prime, you'll start seeing ads for like Stars or like these other channel services, and you can
That's
just add them for like $3 a month and get access to their whole library.
Well, that's a good
So
idea. I'm gonna do
yeah,
exactly
check
that.
that out. That's a hot tip for people I've just noticed recently on my Amazon Prime.
I didn't know that.
But,
That is a good tip. Okay,
yeah,
cool. So yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did it through YouTube. It's available
mhm,
on the Adult Swim app, only in the States.
yeah,
But yeah, check it out. I think that it's worth watching, for sure.
yeah.
If you're kind of
I
into
would
subversive
say
comedy.
Yeah, I would say check out some of the original Tim and Eric Awesome Show Good Job first,
Yeah,
though,
for sure.
just to really get a good idea for like where they're coming from and what kind of stuff they normally do,
Yeah,
before you hop into this, because it can be quite jarring if you don't have at least a little bit of prep
yeah.
beforehand.
And if you don't like what you see on YouTube, like with the regular clips of Tim and Eric, I would say stray away from this show.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you don't like the Tim and Eric brand, you're gonna find this really strange and upsetting. And
yeah.
upsetting is the best word for it.
Upsetting is a great
Honestly.
term. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great. Yeah.
I showed my parents. One last note. I showed my parents Mr. America,
Okay.
which is the movie that they made for the On Cinema universe, where Tim is running for district attorney, without ever having gone to law school or doing any of the prerequisite work to get into law, become a district attorney.
Oh my
And
God.
they were both upset with it and really annoyed, but my dad was more tolerant than my mom.
Okay. They were both
But
upset with it.
they were both like really upset with it. And my dad loves anything with Mark Proch,
Okay.
he's in The Office. What season are you on?
I'm on season 3 right now. I'm
Oh
just
Jesus, you're
about
moving
to
like
get
a
through
snail
season
through
3.
that thing.
I
My
know,
God.
yeah, I know. I've been doing a lot.
Savor it, man. Savor it. That's
I'm
fair.
trying to.
Yeah.
Trying to.
But
Just
he's
getting
in
to
he's in The
the part
Office.
where yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Which
he's my
character does
favorite.
he play? Is he not in there yet? Or is
Nate.
he just
Nate. He's
Nate?
not in
Okay,
there yet. No.
I haven't met Nate yet. Okay.
As soon as you hear a guy start talking about not being able to listen to more than one person at once, he can't. He has hearing problems, and he likes to
Okay.
bring it up a lot at
Okay.
every single juncture, and asks
Gotcha.
people, "Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? No. Okay." He's. I'm not going to spoil the bit, but he's a fucking funny guy. Not going to spoil
Okay,
the bit,
cool.
but I just spoiled the bit. But anyway,
Great. No, that's fine.
yeah, it's worth
I'm
watching
sure I'll appreciate it when I get to it.
for sure. Okay, I'm going to have a washroom and water break.
Yeah, me
and
too.
we
I think
can.
we'll pause it there, and we'll come back with Hollywood.
Yeah, we'll reconvene. We'll reconvene in like 5 minutes, and yeah, we'll
Sick.
come back with hooray for Hollywood. Looking forward
right.
to it. Okay.
Please enjoy our commercial break for Casper mattresses, and we'll see you in a few minutes. And we're back.
And we're back.
Welcome
Transition. All right.
Transition.
So we both had a well-deserved break, I think, after that analysis of that stressful comedy content.
Yes, that incredibly intense piece of satirical comedy, and now we'll get into a drama that is significantly more lighthearted, in
Yeah.
my opinion, than Tim and Eric.
Yeah, more lighthearted, but not any less confusing in tone.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say.
yeah.
The tone
I
is
will- I
very
will agree.
confusing.
I have a few notes about that. Yeah,
Yeah, I have it written in all caps.
yeah.
All
Excited to
caps.
hear it.
Tone is wildly confusing.
So Hollywood, It's on a Netflix original, Hollywood, season 1, episode 1. Hooray for Hollywood is the name of the episode. This was
Yep.
my suggestion for the week.
Watch through Netflix, by the way.
Watch
So
the through
just yeah,
Netflix.
the only way to do it.
Yeah, currently, yeah. I think, and so yeah, this is created by a pretty powerhouse team. This is created by Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan, who are the showrunners for American Horror Story,
Oh,
Glee, and The Politician, among many others.
wow. Okay, that's
So
where the production
yeah,
value comes from then.
yeah, big time, and you can tell
Wow.
because right away this show establishes itself as like, okay, camera works tight, the dress, the set deck, the costuming, everything about this is super tight, super period appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
The style of it is very very well established right away.
Yeah.
And they also reuse quite a few actors from those other shows in this show as well,
Oh,
which is
cool.
pretty fun.
Ensemble
The
type
lead,
deal.
exactly, like the lead in this is a very important character in the show, The Politician, and Ian McDermott, of course, being in American Horror Story and others. So
Well, I think this guy is great. This
me
lead
too.
guy, it's a bit canned sometimes. I think his performance is a bit like, I want to be the best in the world.
Oh yeah,
It's
well,
a bit
that's
anime
what it's making
protagonist.
fun of. Yeah, but I think that's definitely what it's trying to
100%.
hit for on purpose.
Yeah.
Which is fun. So yeah, so I'll just quickly
Yeah.
kind of explain it a little bit here. So like yeah, so this is the premise is this it's in post World War II America. This takes place in like 46 or 47.
Like right soon after, very
Yeah,
soon after.
almost immediately after the end of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And our lead is a veteran, a combat veteran. He fought in Anzio, which is the first battle of the Italian campaign in World War II. Operation Shingle, it was called, which was the Allies' campaign to capture Rome from the Axis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he fought in the Battle of Anzio, and I assume probably all through that campaign, all the way up into Europe or whatever. That isn't specifically said, but he does mention that was the battle he fought.
Mm-hmm.
That he's a combat vet. It starts off. The first scene is him in a movie theater, watching basically an ad for Hollywood, basically an ad saying, "Hey, you can come here and you can act and you can follow your dreams and you can get everything you wanted." And he's
Mm-hmm.
the starry-eyed guy. You know, he's in his mid-20s. He's like watching this thing and being like, "Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do."
Like the
It's
ultimate
implied.
modern dream, the ultimate
Exactly.
modern aspiration. Like, you are an individual living within a country with as much liberty as can be reasonably given to an individual.
Yeah.
You go and do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, modernization. It's like it's modernism at its core, and I love that kind of aspect of it. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a cultural commentary, but not like so overt that it's like, I want to be a modern man. Like
Yeah.
that sort of shit. I hate that kind
It
of
feels
stuff.
like watching it, you're like, okay, like right away they establish like, hey, that's
Mhm.
right. This is all big dream stuff, but like it's all kind of a big sham. It's
Yeah.
all kind of like a big glitz thing to just get people to come here and waste their money and their time, and if they're not good enough, or if they don't decide they're good enough for whatever arbitrary reason, they don't get pushed
And
forward. So anyway,
I
he-
think
he-
all of
he
those
was-
characters kind of represent that though as well. Like all of the exposition that the characters go on,
Yeah.
it does that very well. It manages to go over that very well, I
Yeah.
think.
I think that every single character we meet in this show is either was or is trying to be an actor, writer, or producer. They're trying to be in Hollywood in some capacity.
It seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. All
It
the
seems to be.
older characters we meet are people who tried and failed, and all the new characters we meet are people who are just starting their journey. So there's some really interesting juxtapositions that we find between the life experience that is trying to be bestowed and the young people who won't listen to it because they believe that their dreams are the ones that are going to matter.
Mhm.
That's how it feels
Yeah.
throughout a lot of things.
And yeah, you see that in a very key scene in the first episode, the first job that our main character goes on. I think that it's an excellent scene. I was really
Yes.
very impressed by.
You mean all the extras like sitting outside of the gate? That
Well,
section?
no, I'm talking about later on with the
Oh.
the woman.
Gotcha. Yes.
Who
Oh,
was
that scene. Yes.
in the industry. Yeah, I wanted to. I don't want to reveal that before you get to it in the story beats, but yeah, I think that yeah, the old and new generation of film stars is put on display in a very obvious and interesting way, and not like ham-fisted. I think it's done very artfully.
It's very clever. There's a
Yeah.
I will say the style of the show, it's it kind of has a little bit of an Edgar Wright vibe to the editing. There's a lot of really excellent
Oh, yeah.
visual jokes
Yeah.
with the editing of just like, da 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 da, cut to a thing, we see a really
Mm-hmm.
quick visual joke, cuts back, that kind of deal. The editing is very
Yeah.
fast. The camera work's very nice. The style is instantly cemented and is quite lovely. It
Mm-hmm.
has a very fast pace. The acting's good. The writing so far is very fun. Um, though I know what you mean by the tonal thing, and we'll get to that in a second because the tone shifts significantly when we get into the more intimate
Oh
scenes,
my God, yeah,
like almost to
really,
whiplash.
really
Yeah.
got me. It really bamboozled me. Honestly,
Yeah.
I had no idea what the show was about, and it was a bit of a head spin, a
Yeah.
dome twirl, as our friend Gidim would say. Um,
Yes. Yeah. We'll get to that for sure.
and I'm gonna recommend, if somebody is out there, kind of is hearing about this and wants to watch it, I would say stop listening,
Oh yeah.
and go and get a listen of it, because or not a listen, go and watch it, because if you were to kind of get the twist in a podcast format, it would really deflate kind
Yeah.
of the shock that
I
comes
guess
from it.
we should say that at the beginning of the episodes from now on, just be like, hey, like this is spoiler heavy. We're
Yeah,
talking beat for beat throughout the whole episode of the whole movie. This is of course, and that's also why I would love to um, encourage people to watch along with us, much like
absolutely.
in like how did this get made, that kind of format where they like tweet out what movie they'll be watching and then like watch it, and that way when you're listening, you can kind of play along with us a little bit, that kind
Yeah,
of deal.
absolutely.
So yeah, if you think so far, if what we've described sounds interesting to you, if you're a big fan of the aesthetic of post World War II America, like I am,
Like essentially
and it's
TV version of LA Noir.
yeah, exactly, a very much a TV version of L.A. Noire. If that's
Yeah,
intriguing to you, also L.A. Noire is something I definitely want to cover on the show eventually.
very cool. Would be a very cool
Uh,
thing to cover.
Big time, yeah.
One case per week kind of thing
One case per week. That's actually really fun.
would
I
be
like that
really
a lot.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I let's talk more about that. I like that
yeah,
concept a lot. Yeah, then turn off the episode and go watch it, and then if you want to come back, please come back.
please.
Uh,
We miss you already.
yeah, it's not that we're begging; it's that we miss you.
It's not that we're begging. It's just we're begging. We're begging
Yeah.
you, please, please.
Yeah.
Um.
So going forwards,
Yeah.
we have our main character. He moves out to L.A. with his wife, who is newly pregnant. I think no, that's the second scene. So the first scene we see after this is him going and trying to be an extra. He
Yeah.
goes to like
Would
the
be the
set,
first
I think it's
scene.
like Universal or something, like one of the giant lots in
Mhm.
Hollywood. They have all these lots, the production lots where all the sets are. And he's out front with a friend. We haven't met this character before, but he's just kind of there.
It's
He's
the
dropping
first
all
scene.
this. Yeah, the first scene. He's dropping all this. We're taking the second scene. Anyway, he's dropping all this like lingo on him. He doesn't know what he's talking about because he just got here. His idea going into this is like, I'm gonna move to LA and be a movie star. I got out of the war. I have nothing
Yeah.
else going for me. Let's do it. So this
Sets
first
up his
scene,
character very nicely, I think.
very nicely. Just this
Yeah.
wide-eyed person just looking to try to make it big and make it famous,
Mhm.
and obviously runs into a lot of snags because it's not that easy.
Yeah.
So he goes to this casting call, and basically, I this has to be real. This has to have been how it used to be, because I can't imagine this is that fictionalized. So
Yeah.
he is outside of the lot with literally hundreds of people waiting for the casting director to come out and just pick extras out of a crowd for
Mhm.
that day's shoots,
Mhm.
which is fascinating to me. It's so strange, so interesting that like, yeah, they're all this mob of people is there. Casting agent comes out, the guards, the handguns wielding guards open the gates and have like this wall around the casting agent, and she just goes through and she's like, hey, this is the film we're shooting, and she just picks out 5 people at random, probably purely based on how they look,
Yeah.
whatever she
100%.
has, whatever thing she needs to get, and passes over him and passes over our lead character and picks her friend. Let me look up the lead character's name really quick because it's going to be difficult. Jack.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can't remember either. It's like
I should really remember if I can't keep referring to him as the lead character.
I'm terrible with names. The only
I'm
reason
not
why I
good.
remember Tim and Eric's name is because it's Tim and Eric.
Jack. So I was right. I remember. Okay, I remember. So it's Jack.
Okay, Jack. Okay, sweet. I'm
Lead
gonna write that
character
down.
Jack, our very very gorgeous, very classic leading man. This guy has a great look for the time period. He really looks like he's just walked right out of the 1940s.
Yeah, really
Um,
does.
yeah, almost every character in this show does. They did an excellent job with the costuming and the makeup and everything.
Yeah, the set design too.
It's beautiful.
Like, how
Yeah,
much of that is CGI? I
I don't
wonder.
know. I'm curious. A lot of the background stuff probably is, but then the things like the hotel and like the like bar and stuff like those are probably all sets. They probably built them
Oh
on a
yeah,
lot just like
for
that,
sure.
right?
But I'm
And
thinking more like the cityscapes of stuff like buildings that probably don't exist anymore.
it's
Like,
probably all digitally removed. Yeah,
yeah, because you look at something like Boardwalk Empire, and 90% of what was shot exterior was CGI, and
yeah,
you would have no idea if you hadn't watched a making of documentary of
yeah,
the show kind of
exactly,
thing.
exactly.
Which I was really impressed by. The production value on this show is fucking out of this world.
Immediately excellent, and also because it's
Out
a
of this
limited
world.
series. That's what it says. It's a limited series, so I don't know if that means.
Oh.
I assume that means it's only going to be this one season. So this could very well be like a completely cohesive story by the end.
Wow.
Um,
Cohesion in a narrative in a
Interesting,
Netflix
right?
series?
So
That's
rarely done.
insane.
I
Crazy to
know.
me. Crazy. I'm looking
They
forward
don't
to it.
they don't do a lot of limited series on Netflix, but I
No.
wish they would do more. Godless was excellent, and
Godless. My parents
it was
watched that, I think.
it's a western.
Yeah, they
The
did.
entire show is shot with natural lighting. There's no artificial light.
Oh,
Everything's
no
natural.
shit.
It's all 4K. Like it was shot natively in
Oh,
4K. Dude, this
that's
show's gorgeous.
cool.
I recommend it. It really feels like kind of has like a Magnificent Seven kind of vibe to it. I think you'd dig
That's
it.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
like that's like Barry Lyndon. Like Barry
yeah,
Lyndon was all shot with candlelight.
yeah.
That's really
Also,
cool.
every episode, there's only like 5 episodes, but they're all like an hour and a half. Like it's like a
Oh yeah,
long
good stuff.
thing.
Like Sherlock, like that
Yeah,
sort of
very
thing.
much Sherlock. It very much feels like that.
Yeah. Is it an American series or a British
It's an
series?
American series. It's about the American West. It's about the frontier. It's about a
It's godless.
Godless. Yeah, it's about a like a gang member who betrays his gang and hides out in this town and eventually befriends the town and he helps them and they help him defend themselves from the evil gang who comes to find him and the money he stole.
That
That whole
sounds like Seven Samurai or something.
exactly. It's super pulpy. It's super
Yeah,
good.
I love that. Well, I mean, if the characters are good, like
It's
what's
solid.
what's the
I loved
problem?
it. It was a good watch for
Who
sure.
watches shows for plot? Who watches shows to see like an evil CEO try and poison the groundwater or some shit? You're watching shows for interpersonal relationships and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, not like an overarching plot, like some big galactic like Marvel plot. Like no, who gives a shit? People like seeing Iron Man shoot things.
I agree with that. I agree with that note about like Endgame was amazing. I'm not gonna do anything for Endgame. If you haven't seen it, you should really watch it. I don't know what you're waiting for,
I have
but
not. Are you talking to me or the audience?
I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to anybody who would be like spoilers before I get into this, but just like the
Fair.
reason that Infinity War and Endgame were so good and so impactful is because it is the culmination of 10 years
Yeah.
of watching these characters, and you're watching it because you give a shit about these characters and everything in those movies are incredible because you're like, holy shit, I am so deeply invested because I've put so much time and so much effort into these things, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that the payoff was as spectacular as it turned out to be.
There's always a good emotional payoff, like when the actors and like when the writing is actually done properly, like when the characters are not written slipshod, like that Red Scarlet character, I guess, like the Maggie Gyllenhaal character, or not Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Scarlet Witch. You mean,
Scarlet Witch isn't.
You mean the Olsen, Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah, and like Silver Surfer, like they were written for like one movie, and they were.
Quicksilver.
What's that?
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver, yeah, thank you,
Age of
Quicksilver.
Ultron, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, like those characters seem like weird to put stakes into, like emotional stake, like potentially putting their lives at risk or not putting them at risk. We don't know what happened in the movie, but maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's not what happened. I'm not spoiling.
Yeah. I won't spoil Endgame, but like, this isn't a spoiler to say that I cried the entire time I was in the theater.
Yeah.
I fully owned this, and I had a great time. Like every 5 seconds, there was a tear coming down my cheek, like the whole time, because it was just like such an emotional.
Well, you'd been waiting
Anyway.
so long for that payoff.
Like, dude,
Right?
it was insane, and I'm so invested in the MCU, so like that whole experience was like
Mm-hmm.
incredible.
Yeah,
Just
that's your universe. That's your
I know.
whole world. I'm clueless post Ant-Man. Post Ant-Man, I'm not sure what's going on in the MCU.
That's fair. Then you
I
definitely shouldn't watch Endgame because a lot of it clinches on Ant-Man's participation.
really.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to talk to an anymore. But,
Okay, yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, I kind of I want to catch up, but it's also like 25 hours of movies that I would have to watch. Like
I
it's a
know.
lot to deal with. But that's my argument for Star Wars and all the other like big series that I haven't seen. But
Star Wars Episode 7 also one of my favorite times going to the theater because that was my first time watching a Star Wars film like in the
oh,
theater
that's
with my
fun.
dad properly because he was drawing parallels to his time as a kid watching Episode 4, like Episode 6 or 5, 4 when it came out, New Hope, when the first Star Wars movie came out back before
Yeah.
they were numbered. Weirdly, yeah, him watching the theater and then us going together to see Episode 7 was just like a very surreal and beautiful experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. That sounds like
For
a
that
really
reason,
nice
it's
thing.
very special.
Especially like you and your dad like really both love Star Wars, so
Oh yeah.
it makes sense that it's like such a good connection. It's like seeing the Doctor Who movie. I would imagine like up to the same level of significance. If there was a Doctor Who movie, I don't know.
I don't think so. They've done a couple like movie length specials. I'm
Okay,
not sure if they did specifically a movie, but anyway,
true. Yeah,
I've gone
getting
off
off the beaten track.
I've gone on such a tangent here. Let's go back
It's all
to a
good.
completely different setting in 1940s post-war American Hollywood.
Whoosh!
Let's whiplash our way back to
Yeah.
setting here from sci-fi and superheroes.
Hell yeah,
Um,
man. Whatever. This is what we do.
so-
This is we end up
I know, I love it.
off
I
the
love
beaten
it, dude.
track.
Yeah, people, that's enjoy it,
Yeah,
cherish it.
exactly.
Cherish it.
Cherish.
Okay, where was I? Where was I in the plot here? Okay, yeah.
Oh, just
So
like the
call.
casting. Yeah, casting.
Yeah. Oh my God, the second scene of the movie. I'm not the TV show. It's fine. We'll get through it pretty quick. So, yeah, does this? It just arbitrarily picks people. He's like, "Hey, what about me? You got any war pictures? I was in combat." And
Mhm.
she's like, "Okay, do you know how to act?" And he's like, "Well, no." And she's like, "Well, then you're a dime a dozen. Get out of here." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit." First inclination we get that like, oh, this is not going to work out for you, buddy. Like this
Yeah.
is not going to be as easy as you thought it was.
Yeah, you got to do some work.
Yeah. So then our next scene is they're at the bank, him and his wife trying to apply for a loan to buy a house in LA to stay there because he's really banking on this acting thing.
Yep. Yep.
And
Really
despite him
hoping.
being a veteran, he's in his dress uniform. His insignia on the side suggests that he was a sergeant or a master sergeant. And the bank teller's like, "Thank you for your service. We can't give you a loan because you don't make any money."
Yeah.
And so they deny the loan, and his wife's obviously very upset because she probably doesn't support this acting gig.
Hmm.
So she leaves, and he thanks him, and they go. And
Yeah, it seems to be a point of contention between them.
definitely a point of contention between the two characters. Very similarly to Tim and Eric, one of the things here is she's very cold towards him.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel very supported or very into the relationship.
No, she seems like somebody who got married because it's what you do.
Yeah, it felt like they were sweethearts before he went off to war. That they got married right before he left,
Mhm.
and then that time apart, and his return just wasn't exactly what they both envisioned. That's
Mhm.
the impression I get.
Yeah.
Very kind of shouts out to The Notebook, like that kind of
Yeah.
dealio.
That sort of thing for sure.
Yeah, and so we cutting out to the bar. He's in the bar. We first are introduced to Dylan McDermott's character. Doesn't say anything, but he buys the lead Jack a drink, and
Very
like
spooky
Chad's
looking
bartender.
gentleman.
Very spooky looking gentleman. I love Dylan McDermott. He's great in the show.
Yeah,
I
he
love
he
his
is good.
performance.
He yells
Yeah.
really well.
He yells very well.
Yeah,
And
scary.
so yeah, buys him a drink. Doesn't know what it's for. He thanks him and leaves. And then we go along. The acting thing isn't working out until eventually he gets back to the bar. Dylan McDermott's character comes up and says, "Hey, I have a job opportunity for you.
Mhm.
Come work at my gas station. You'll make great money in tips." And he's like, "What? Why the fuck would I do that?" He's like, "Well, it's a gas station, but it's a little bit more." So he's implying that there's something else going on here.
Yeah, and he had
And then
started
you're-
the conversation talking about his 12-inch penis
Yeah,
as well.
12-inch
So
cock is
that
what he said specifically.
Chekhov's
Ah.
penis.
Chekhov's penis, yes. It's been announced once. It's got to be delivered upon at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
He talks about, you were in the military. I wanted to serve. They wouldn't let me because my dick was too big.
Yeah, exactly.
That was his pickup line on our lead here.
Pretty smooth. pretty
Pretty
smooth.
honestly, the way he delivers it, it is.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and
and
he's
we're
really
talking.
pleased with the joke as well. He's really happy
Yeah,
with himself.
he's having a great time. He even does a visual cue of grabbing his arm like this and slapping it down onto the countertop. And our lead very understandably says, "Why the fuck? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why are you talking to me about this?"
Yeah,
He's
please
like,
stop.
because you asked," and he's like, well, "I didn't ask," and it's very funny. That whole sequence is that exchange is very funny.
Yeah.
This is what I mean about the pace. The pace of the show has kind of like a very fun comedy vibe to it. It's
Mhm.
very sharp. It's very snappy. It's very quick.
Yep.
So he goes to this gas station. This guy's a gas station. He thinks about it. He has a couple bad. He has another couple times where he just isn't. It isn't working out for him with the casting and stuff. So he goes.
Mhm.
He says, "Okay, fine. I'll come work for you." So he goes to work for him, and then it is revealed that people come up to fill their gas. The tenant goes out. If they say a special word, in this case, Dreamland, that means get in the car. We're gonna go have sex. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna pay for.
I
For
want
you.
to go to Dreamland.
Exactly.
That's the code phrase, I guess.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
McDermott's character, his whole gas station is sort of like he hires very attractive young men to work there as gigolos, essentially.
Mhm.
So I wrote down here. Now we see what the plot is.
Yeah.
Post-World War II gigolo culture in Los Angeles. And I
Very
was like,
confusing setting
I
that
was like,
alien setting a little bit.
so fascinating though. I'm like, yeah, this is certainly original.
Yeah.
We haven't seen another show about this so
Yeah.
far. Not that I know of, at least.
Did you know
So
about this before you went in to see it,
I
or was
no.
this a shock to you
This
as
was a
well?
shock to me. I read the description and I was like, okay, so like this is about people in Hollywood trying to make it big. I got sort of like I don't know, like a girl's vibe from it or something. Maybe I was like
Mhm.
maybe it'll be like that kind of thing of just like a bunch of young characters in LA and nothing's doing well. Very obviously, right away, I'm like, okay, no, not at all,
Yeah.
not at all the same film.
This is
They're having
not.
sex as much as they do in girls, but completely different context.
Yeah, they don't have like these moments of like pretentiousness seemingly, and it doesn't seem to take itself too seriously, which I can
Yeah.
appreciate. Kind of
Yeah.
like that show
It
You.
does. Until it does.
Until it does, yeah. Until it gets like really weird and dark, and the main character does some weird shit later on.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I have some comments about the ways in which he goes about that. But anyway,
Yeah.
that'll
The
come
ways,
later in the
ways in
episode.
which he introduces himself to a certain character.
Yeah. Shocking, like literally a horrible, like the
Yeah.
grotesque, like
Yeah, I'll talk about that in length when we get to it. For
yeah.
sure.
Okay, cool. So he starts working at this gas station after hemming and hawing about it for a little bit.
Yeah, but like kind of complaining, and Dylan McDermott is just like, "What's your problem?" He's like, "Well, I don't want to cheat on my wife." And he's like, "Okay, you've never cheated on your wife?" He's like, "No." "Okay, I'm gonna ask you again. You never cheated on your wife?" And we do a very Edgar Wright style smash cut to him
Yeah.
having sex with a woman, and cuts back, and he's like, "Okay, there was one time,"
Mhm.
and he's like, "Okay, well there you go. You got the first time out of the way." Like this guy's very obviously like a real kind of shyster character. He's like, "Come on, whatever you got to do to get yourself in the mindset to make me money, let's go do it."
You need money.
And,
I need money.
yeah.
Just go and do
so
it.
the kind of justification for this person's cheating on his wife is to support his family. That is the justification. In my opinion, I think it's a very Walter White kind of deal.
It is
of, like,
100%. Yeah.
I'm doing this to support my family because it's making me a lot of money. I'm doing it to support you, but actually I'm doing it because I've never felt more alive. Like that.
Yeah.
That's the impression that I get.
Like
is
he's
sort of the takeaway.
well, I think that really comes to a head after the first meeting, like during the first meeting with the older silent actress,
Yes, the
older
silent
silent movie actress, and I guess that would be the next scene coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so she approaches the gas station essentially and asks to go to Dreamland, and Dylan McDermott's character says, "Oh, it's your lucky day."
Yeah, she keeps well. She's one of my regulars. She's been coming
Yeah.
for 10 years. Like that's the setup.
Mhm.
So he sends them on her way.
Mhm.
Gets in the car, and yeah, they drive to a hotel. They go into it. She's pouring them drinks, and then the tone shifts significantly, and I feel like this episode establishes what it'll be for the rest of the show. I think in that it has a very fun, jovial aesthetic. It's very flashy, very bright, lots of jokes and funny bits. And then we get into this sequence in the hotel room with with Jack and the older movie star, and it takes on a very earnest, very
Yeah.
emotional tone of
Mm-hmm.
them talking very honestly with each other about their lives,
Yeah.
and about the fact that their lives just aren't really going the way they wanted them to. And I thought this scene was very good. I think the acting
Very good.
was lovely. He sells it. Also, this boy is gorgeous.
Yeah. He's
Uh,
gorgeous. Like,
mhm.
everybody in this show is gorgeous.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they've really discriminated on looks
yeah.
when
It's I think that's the point, though. I
casting.
think very much that is the point.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's supposed to point light at sort of the incredibly vain, um, cyclical nature of Hollywood.
Yeah. And I think like
Oh,
LA Noir does the exact same has
yeah,
like the exact same kind of thesis.
yeah,
Like it's
and it's brought to head
machine.
by the actress, by the woman that he is spending the day with.
Yeah.
And she says, you know, I was in silent films, and then the talkies came around, and they said, she says, my voice was too Jewy for them.
Yeah. Which I thought was
No
very
one wanted,
interesting.
yeah, no one wanted a Jew actress in their movies, even though, you know, we built this city, is what she says.
Hmm.
And I thought, like, okay, this scene's very interesting. And then she ages and she doesn't quite stay in the spotlight, and now she marries some executive and she's miserable, and she does this because she wants to feel alive again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, okay, we're really getting into the emotional crux of what I think this show is going to end up being about, in these sort of like little story moments, these little day in the life moments about all these characters, and how LA has sort of picked them, lured them in, ringed them out, and thrown them
Chewed him
away.
up, yeah.
Yeah,
It feels
which I
like
think is very interesting.
you know those kind of like conversations with like lounge singers, like
Mm-hmm.
in like noir movies. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
I used to be Bella the Ball
Yeah,
until I slipped and got hit by a Cadillac going 150 miles per hour. Now I'm stuck in this wheelchair. Like that sort of like
yeah,
lounge singer kind of aesthetic. Like it
yeah.
feels like
The
every
my
time.
best days are behind me kind of thing.
Yeah, it feels like every story, uh, like every story that's told in this, a Billy Joel song could be written about,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Like it could be a verse in Piano Man. And I think that it's really interesting that they address anti-Semitism within the context of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Just considering like how like I'm not an expert in the subject, but considering how Judaism has been portrayed in a lot of media, a lot or in media and in like news and culture, a lot of the time people associate Judaism with Hollywood and kind of like control of media and that sort of thing. But like they're experiencing like just as much discrimination, especially post World War II, when like
Yeah,
support for Judaism and the Jewish people should have been at its height. Like you,
yeah, at an all-time
everybody, yeah, everybody goes to war to stop this political force that's killing all of these people coming from
all
a
these groups.
specific cultural group, and then
Yeah,
this cultural group tries to come out into modern like regular normalized society through whatever means that they can, and they're pushed aside because they're too Jewy, they're too
yeah.
Jewy sounding, and
Do
that's
whatever,
reprehensible.
whatever form that discrimination takes, so they can be like, yeah, 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 yeah. We already did our part in helping you.
Yeah.
That's the implication, is like, we already did our part. We went and fought a war for you, so just accept it and sit down. Like that's sort of what she implies is like the case is.
Yeah, and it's really surprising, and it's interesting to see that being addressed, and not in like a ham-fisted way. Again, like it's done
Yeah,
tactfully, and it's done.
they get into that. They get into the anti-Semitism. They get into racism
Yep.
and LGBTQ and stuff like that. They get into all of these things just a little bit in the first episode. They
Mm-hmm.
establish them. They establish these themes, and I have a feeling like these are things that they will explore
one
way
hundred
more as
percent.
they go
Yeah.
forwards. But for now, it's not ham-fisted. It's not heavy-handed. They're just like, here are the things that we will probably be talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and presented in a way that's just very earnest and just very honest. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah,
You know,
I liked it a lot, and it did.
yeah,
Yeah, earnest is a really good way to put it. I really appreciated how tactful they were, and cognizant they were of the sensitivity of the issues that they were addressing. Like this was obviously looked over by a PR team. Like I'm gonna say that it's looked over by like somebody who's like a critical like social scientist or something, being like, hey, you can't actually say this because this is wrong. Like it seems like very grounded in some sort of like whimsical reality that's not really revisionist history, which is nice to see, especially in an age like the 1940s and the 50s, where everybody and their mothers talks about like how great the 50s were. The 50s were the best. The 50s were so peaceful. The 50s were so like economically sound. Anybody could get a job. Everybody could get a car with wood paneling on the side. But at the same time, Africville existed. Baltimorean like white flight was happening, like all of these like urban phenomenons that were still perpetuating racism, sexism, homophobia, and like cultural genocide of all of these specified marginalized groups. Like it still existed, and the fact that it's being addressed in this, I think, is commendable, considering just how easy it is to actually forget about all of those things with how glitzy and romantic America in the 50s is, especially a setting like LA, where it has neon lights and it has all the retro signage and it has all this stuff.
Palm trees. It's exotic and romantic.
Yeah.
And everything that the American dream can be, you can come here and you can be a movie star.
Yeah, and it really gives that impression of glitz and glamour and opportunity, almost like it's a land of opportunity explicitly. But at the same time, you see all of these people struggling, and it's like this kind of big statement, this big modernist statement is juxtaposed by all these people who are just like fucked at this point. Like they can't do anything. They can't get a loan. They can't get a house. Their wife is miserable. Like they're being...
The fact that he's a veteran, the fact that he fought in World War II means ultimately nothing other than a couple people being like, okay, thanks so much for your service. But fuck you.
But get the fuck out of my face.
So very much like what we talked about in Beef House, like, it doesn't matter the time period, veterans are treated like garbage. It's really like, hey, thank you so much for being braver than I am, but I'm not going to do anything for you because I apparently have no sense of respect for people who sacrifice more than I do.
Way fucking more. And sometimes not for a just cause too. Sometimes like World War II, just cause. Iraqi war,
I want to say there are gray areas in every single armed conflict in human history. There is no armed conflict that exists or has ever existed that was entirely one side was completely in the right and one side was completely in the wrong. However, if you are going to pick one to boil down into that, you can absolutely pick World War II as that. It's very hard to identify the Axis powers as anything other than very, very evil.
Abject, like complete horror. Like abhorrent evil. Like they're the worst. They were the absolute worst. And I'm glad to hear you say that. With all the preamble in that sentence, I was kind of like, oh man, is this podcast gonna end before it even starts? Oh no, oh no, oh no, we're gonna get canceled.
Every war has its gray areas, but let me talk about how the Wehrmacht weren't that bad. Just because I see the argument so often, because now, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go on a tangent if I keep going on this, but basically you see a lot now the argument of just like, well, yes, Nazis were bad, the SS are evil, but the Wehrmacht were just the army, they were just doing what they had to do, and I'm like, okay, let me just stop you right there. Sure, 1 out of every 5 average German soldier was just doing their job, but there were a couple who were pretty jazzed to be there. Okay, like I think there were a couple who were pretty stoked to be the kings of the world.
That was the American like sect of it, right? It was like the American Party or something, like the American Nazi Party. That's the
American Nazi Party. Yeah.
There's a really funny joke in The Office about that actually educated me about them. I'd gone out of my way to look it up, but Dwight's family was apparently involved with that part of, and it's brought up in a really clever way, and he like tries to insert like some borderline Holocaust denial stuff, like into conversation sometimes, and it's really disconcerting. It's like some Norm Macdonald comedy. I really love it.
Right.
Just to mention The Office once. I have to do it at least a
Dude, I
couple
know.
times.
Every episode we'll mention The Office in part, and it's always
Oh,
sunny at least once or twice.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're going through The Office right now. You're gonna have to
Yeah,
talk about
exactly.
it. I mean,
Oh,
you're
that,
gonna
oh yeah,
you're gonna have to start powering through it, man.
yeah.
Let's go. You got to catch up to me. I just finished
I
last
will.
night.
I will. I will. I want to revisit our Pam and Jim conversation from the lost episode later on.
Yes, absolutely. The
But
legendary Pam and Jim conversation.
I have a few more notes. But,
Yeah.
we'll revisit that later. Anyway,
All right.
getting back. So yeah,
They
that
have
was
this
really like
intimate
crap.
scene.
Yeah, they
This
have
very
an
intimate
with
scene.
the older actress with the former silent film actress, and yeah, and then they make love,
Yep.
and
Very stylized.
she says something very 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 sad that made me quite sad. She says, uh, "Make me feel like I matter, even if it's a lie."
Yeah.
And it's like that's all that this interaction is. It's just someone
Yeah.
who just is not happy and doesn't get what she wants or needs, and is looking for that in any other avenue possible. And it was a really lovely scene. I thought
Yeah.
that it whiplashed the heck out of me at first because I was like, whoa, the tone shifted so drastically.
Yeah.
But on its own merits, a beautiful scene.
It reminded me of like The Reader, that Kate Winslet movie. I think I read the book. I don't think I've read the or watched
You
the
read The
movie.
Reader?
I read The Reader. Yeah, I read The Reader.
You are the reader.
It's like The Giver. I am the reader. I'm the giving reader.
Who's on first? What's that second?
But it reminded me of that, like that kind of candor, that kind of like intimate candor within like a night that's like just that one night. Sorry for hitting the mic. So I don't know, just a kind of a banal comparison, but I thought that it was worth noting. It was nice to see because I enjoy that book. I think that's a pretty fantastic book, or a fantastic story overall. So they shack up, they're fine.
Yep.
They finish up, everything's fine, and
boys.
Jack goes on with his day. He ends up
he
at
goes back,
yeah.
gets paid. He's Dylan McDermott's character is giving all the tips to everybody, and gives him an envelope full of cash. And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I got one more job for you if you have a minute." He's
Yep.
like, sure. So
10 minutes in the shed.
10 minutes in the shed is what he says. Yeah. So he sends him out to the RV, the camper out back, and
good name for a
inside
shed.
Is a gentleman who isn't wearing any pants, his legs crossed. He's like, "Hello," and Jack shuts the door and he says, "Hey, what the hell? I'm not gay. I'm not doing that." And McDermott's character, I think, justifiably gets upset with him and says, "That's a famous recording artist. I can't remember the name of the person."
Yeah,
But,
I don't know.
yeah, but he at the time he was a very famous musician, and he says like, if you're gonna go in there and give him a couple minutes of your time, and you're gonna make money,
A couple minutes of your time.
and God damn it, get in there and show musical treasure so and so
Yeah.
a good time. God damn it. And he says, "No, fuck you, like I'm getting out of here." And he says, "Okay, well, if you aren't going to do that, find me someone who will. You're not getting paid." And he takes his money back.
Mhm.
To which I wrote, "Sexuality is a spectrum, man. You don't know. You might be into it. Don't be such a try
Prude.
it out. Yeah, don't be such a prude. At least talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Maybe you just want to talk. Like, what's wrong with that?" That's the time period.
Yeah. Gay panic.
Gay panic, really.
Gotta love it.
We get into that. I mean, this show starts to lay the groundwork for getting into issues of LGBTQ race and anti-Semitism stuff, which I really like.
But you know what I really appreciated?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other shows of this same kind of tone might have made him go in and like it would have shown him going through the processes of like trying to be comfortable with it, but then like slamming the door in his face and like making a dramatic exit and then coming back asking for his job back, and then the boss is like, "Oh, I have one big job for you to do. If you could do this job, I'll get you your job back." Anyway, I'm getting too far into my imagination.
No. I see what you're saying. I see what kind of tropes you're hitting. What kind of
thank you. But yeah, like the boss. Or sorry, I think that the use of like LGBT stuff in this show is tactful. Like once again, I think that it's well done. And it's not used as a prop. Which it so often is used as a prop, and I think that that's like really harmful to the overall discourse of like how people in general see LGBTQ people. So the fact that he's forced to find somebody who will do that is interesting, as opposed to him just saying like, okay, well, I guess it's a choice, so I'll just go and do it. It's like, no,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go find somebody who's gay.
yeah.
And just before I forget, I love the fact that they include bisexuality in
Yes,
this
yes. The
spectrum of sexuality in the show.
what do they say? He's sexually fluid or whatever. He's sexually something.
Yeah, he
They
likes
refer
the
to
cat and the
it.
kitty.
Yeah, it's the cat and the kitty. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's a little bit. We're a couple beats ahead, but I appreciated that as well.
yeah.
Um, so yes, so he now his goal is to find someone to come and be able to service their male clients.
Hmm.
I assume because Dylan McDermott's character had someone like that, but is not around anymore. I don't know
It
exactly.
seems to be. Yeah, I imagine
Maybe
that this
that's
was like a very
agent.
convoluted ploy to get him to hire somebody for him.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
he's that kind of trickster. So
yeah.
that could very well be the case.
Hmm.
So our lead character's immediate go-to plan for this is to go to a costume shop. Okay, he does so many illegal things here. So he goes to a costume shop who he knows the proprietor, and he's like, "I need a costume." Okay, what do you need? He rents a very realistic police officer's uniform. So first of all, he's walking down the street impersonating a police officer, super illegal, even in the 1940s.
Two felonies
Uh,
right there.
two felonies right there. He's impersonating a police officer. He's got a fake gun on his belt. He's got the whole 9 yards. He's got a leather jacket. He's looking spick and span, LA's finest.
With his
So
hat off to the side too, like
I
a
don't
little like newspaper boy, like an asshole.
he's like nodding to people as he goes by, and they're like, no. So he goes into a porn theater, a secret gay porn theater. And he walks by, he goes to the proprietor, the guy who's taking tickets, and he's like, "Oh my god, a cop! What the fuck, shit?" Because in those days, that means
Hmm.
you're fucked.
Yep.
So he says, "Hi, one ticket, please." He's like, "No, officer, you don't have to pay. Please go on in." Because he's like, "What the fuck is this cop doing here?"
Yeah, in
Cop goes
uniform.
in uniform,
Yeah.
fully in uniform, goes inside because obviously he's too embarrassed to be caught as himself as this place, so he has to dress up, right? So he
Yeah.
goes in,
Yeah.
takes a seat. Gay porn movies playing. There's a couple people getting busy in the stands.
Hmm.
People are there to meet people. I don't know exactly of the time period if it was pretty normal just for gay men to meet each other just at bars and places like this. I assume
Yeah.
that probably was. You'd go there and you meet each other and hang out.
I'm pretty up
So
on
he
that
goes,
history, so yeah, it is pretty accurate
that was
in
pretty
in
accurate.
regards
Okay,
to the
cool.
way that people would go out and cruise, and the way that one of the characters. I have some comments on that later on, but
Cool.
anyway, yeah.
Cool. So he's there. This African American gentleman comes in. He's meeting some people. He takes a seat, and he sees a guy. Guy unzips his pants and kind of beckons him over. They go. They're chatting. They're meeting. He starts playing with the other guy, and Jack, our lead, sits down behind them, pulls out his fake gun, and points it at the back of the guy's head who's being pleasured, and says, "Get the fuck out of here! No, you stay."
Yeah.
The African American character who is yet unnamed, and he then essentially fake arrests him. So we're up to okay. So brandishing a weapon, okay, impersonating a police officer, kidnapping
All
is what
felonies.
this is.
All
All felonies.
felonies.
So he's now done so many super illegal
At
things.
least three. At least three or four felonies in
At
one
least 3 or 4
consistent
felonies.
transaction.
This is the only scene I was watching, and I went, "What the fuck?" Like
Yeah.
I was like, "This is what the fuck."
This did
So
not
anyway,
make any sense. This was
no,
a bad scene. I think this was a poorly thought out scene.
this was a poorly thought out scene that I suppose you could argue is being played for comedy, but I thought I was like, who would forgive this?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if a fake police officer came up to you, kidnapped you, and then was like, "Listen, I just kidnapped you so you could come work at my friend's sex thing."
Yeah.
Like,
I just sex trafficked you.
hard
I
no,
just
sir.
kidnapped and sex
I
trafficked
just
you.
sex trafficked you. Yes,
Yeah.
no, hard no, sir. Thank you very much.
Big no.
So he takes him to the malt shop. He takes him to the cafe
The
for
malt
a
shop.
drink.
Yeah.
He takes him down to the old milkshake shack to get a drink, and very quickly the man, he catches on that, okay, you're not a real cop,
Yeah.
and then he says, "Oh my god, okay, wait, I need to check up the character's name here. Archie is the character
Yeah.
that he meets. So Archie's like, "Okay, you're not a cop." He's like, "Yes, but I'm an actor, and until you just now you thought I was a cop, right?" I
Mhm.
think that was sort of that button on the scene as to what's supposed to be like, see, this was all funny,
Mhm.
but I was like, fuck no.
No, and
This is the only scene that I didn't like.
he takes it way too jovially. He take
This
like
Archie is too cool at this.
it doesn't make any
Too,
sense, and Archie must have seen some really really heinous terrible shit before this to for
dude,
this to be normal for him.
this is a time period where okay, he is a gay black man in
Being
LA.
kidnapped by a
This is
cop.
being kidnapped by a cop. Like this is a situation that very realistically could have led to his murder. Like,
150%,
and,
yeah.
and he's just like, "Ah, okay, fine. Well, I guess since you're not a cop, it's fine. Yeah, sure. I'll listen to your thing here. This is the only sequence where I was like, it just felt a little tone deaf for the time period.
100%, yeah, 100%. Like that's like one of the scariest situations a gay black man in that time era would possibly imagine. I would think like
Yeah,
cops.
this is my speculation based on what I know. I'm not claiming to understand that those perspectives at all. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, same here.
whoa, if it is if stories nowadays are indicative of anything, it's that it couldn't have been better
Yeah,
back then.
no, it definitely was not better.
Things
Well,
can still get pretty fucked up now. So
like even in Toronto, just as a brief little tangent, like Toronto's
yeah.
police were some of like the most brutal
Oh my
in
God,
regards
especially
to
the LGBT
to
community.
yeah
Holy
to the
shit.
LGBT community with the Stonewall riots, with the bathhouse riots.
Oh
They
my
would
God.
literally they would have people they would pay off the owners of the bathhouses, and they would drill holes into the walls of the places where they would have sex, and then they would peer in and they would just go in and essentially like farm arrests of LGBTQ people out of these places, and they would let the establishments keep running, and people would just come in and then just be taken out essentially. So then all these bars had to die, and they had to become like super secret with like codes and all this shit. It was like the underground like queer queer network. It was really fucking cool. Like it wasn't cool, like it
Wasn't
sucked
cool
that
it
it
had
was
to happen
happening.
that way, but
Yeah,
but it's very fun. The ingenuity at the time is admirable.
and just as if for anybody who's interested in this sort of stuff, there's a really really great anthology book called Any Other Way: How Toronto Got Queer, and it talks about
I'll look that up.
yeah, I have a copy of it, but I can't lend it to you right now. Obviously,
Yeah,
I'll
of
lend it
course.
to you when I see you next, if
Yeah.
restrictions come up. But yeah, it's a great book. I had to read it for school, and it was really informative on how the gay scene kind of operated within these times of like discrimination and strife and terrible, horrible oppression. It's some really horrible shit, but it's really cool to see the subject matter being represented, especially from a black perspective, considering that perspective a lot of the time is the most marginalized and the most silenced, especially like with the intersectional, like with the cross section of intersectional, identities. It's interesting to see. I like their conversation in the bar though. I do like their
I do
conversation.
like the conversation. I hate the context of how
Yeah,
it came to be. But their
100%.
conversation is very good. And Archie's oh boy, oh my God, him explaining his motivations, his exposition.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the word exposition for a second, but his exposition as to his motivations and his thing about being a writer, and he wants to be a writer, and he wrote a movie about a white woman so that it will actually get made.
Mhm.
Like his plights and stuff like that. Like I love that conversation. I love their talk.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like this, like specifically, I like the way that he's portrayed as a writer
Yeah.
in this, because a lot of the time you'll see a writer and they're this kind of prototypical Stephen King type like main character who like lived in Oregon, like lived in a spooky house. His mom
yeah,
was like
very
addicted to
Alan Wake
pills.
kind of character.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. But you see this like again gay black writer in a era wherein that wasn't accepted at all. And I guess that's a lot of the merit of this show. I think it's kind of like representation, like it's representational merit. I don't know if it's necessarily saying anything new. That's
That's true.
one thing that I think. But I think that what is said and what is shown is appropriate and definitely represents kind of a good like idea of what like gay culture is, I think, and what that meant in that specific context.
Time.
Specifically, a line I want to point out that I really liked was it made me think about sex work in a different way.
Hmm.
When, I wasn't really expecting to have my views of sex work challenged today. When I watched this show, I expected like a glitzy kind of Boz Luhrmann type show. Um,
That's a great analogy. It feels very Baz Luhrmann.
right?
It's
Yeah, but it feels like more substantive. Like it
yeah,
doesn't feel like
definitely.
it's lacking any substance like The Great Gatsby was. Like how can
Mhm.
you take America's greatest novel, probably America's greatest novel, and essentially turn it into just pretentious drivel? I
Yeah,
spewed out of Tobey Maguire's mouth. I hate that movie. That's a tangent.
yeah, that's
That's a.
fair. I don't like Tobey Maguire, so that's fair.
You don't like the Raimi Spider Mans?
No, I don't like Tobey
Oh.
Maguire. I like the movies. I just don't like Tobey
Okay.
Maguire
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll take that.
for personal reasons. Apparently, he's anyway.
Oh, okay. That's something we can get
He's a
into
real
off stream.
asshole. Apparently,
Okay. That's
yeah.
interesting to hear. I've heard like mumblings of that somewhere. I can't remember from where, but I maybe it was from you. Maybe you've already told me the story and my weed brain has expunged it.
That's fine.
We'll have to go over it
I'm
again.
used to dealing with your read brain. That's okay.
Yeah, you got to be used to it now. By
Yeah,
now you got to be used to it.
yeah, that's no
Um
problem.
but he says, sorry, but Archie says
Yeah.
this is something that I would be doing anyway, so why not get paid for it?
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
like he enjoys it."
Why not get paid for something that feels good?
Yeah,
I think.
like he legitimately enjoys it. It's not
Yeah.
like you usually see these sex work stories where it's people who are put into these situations and it's used as a plot device.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my gosh, I can
like
talk about that for a long time.
like a good way that I think the best example of that I can think of off the top of my head is Florida Project, but I think that Florida Project did it really well. I think that was a very that was a very tactful and appropriate use of prostitution in that realm. But I think it's too often used as like kind of a desperation device. Like,
It is. It's often used as like a, oh, you have to feel sorry for this character. They've had such a hard life.
yeah,
Like,
they've been
okay,
put
but
to
not everyone that does sex work does it because they're desperate or broken
yeah,
or something. Like there are people who do it because it's good money and they enjoy it and they're safe and everything's fine.
yep,
Like it's sex work is real work, and I'll say that every day because it is.
it is. It
And
absolutely is. It
you know,
requires labor. Like
I
I
think
don't know what the problem is.
like people have been boning each other since the beginning of time because guess what, it's a biological imperative.
Yeah,
And we're like much like dolphins, we're like, oh hey, this is fun, why don't we do this all the time? And but yet that's not the gentlemanly thing to do, so we have to illegalize that. We have to make that illegal, illegalize it.
I think like that reminds me of How I Met Your Mother. There's a line where it's like, what was the first job? Prostitution, or the first job is prostitution that ever existed. Like cavemen were doing prostitution. And Marshall was like, well, they had to give something to have an exchange value. So fishing and gathering was the first job, but prostitution was definitely the second job. It's like, yeah, yeah, there you go. It's a foundational aspect to modern
Foundational
society and
aspect of human
civilization.
society. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a cool note, and that was I wrote down here this might be the most progressive show about prostitution ever.
Which is sad.
It is, which is sad because it's not
I
that
mean,
progressive.
and again, I don't know. There might be others that I'm overlooking. There might have been others that I haven't seen. I'm
Diaries
sure
of a
there are.
Call Girl.
Maybe is that good? I don't know.
I've
I don't.
heard
I don't.
mix. I've heard it's good for the first like season or two, and then it just
Okay.
tail dives,
Okay.
tail spins.
'Cause
Like
that's
L
what I mean.
Word, L
Yeah.
Word.
Oh, Albert. Okay. Oh,
I
yeah. I
th-
don't know if that's specifically about prostitution though. I think
well,
isn't that just about
I,
lesbians?
I I think that there's a prostitute character in it.
Okay.
Maybe I'm thinking of another. Maybe I'm thinking of another show. I don't know, but I can't think of any other show that's broached the subject in a way that's been anything but
Yeah.
reprehensible. Like this is the
Yeah.
first one that's
This
been
this is
decent.
yeah. This is very much like a, hey, these are all characters who, for their own reasons, have come to this place
Hmm.
to make a little cash, making some, just having fun with some people, and that's really the gist of this first episode. Is like no one's
Yeah,
getting hurt. They come, they say a code word, and if they say the code word, you go with them, and you have you go on a date with them. Like that's basically.
yeah,
and for that, I guess it's progressive in the sense that it just relays this to you as if it's a normal day, and there
Yeah.
is nothing strange or obtuse or disgusting about it. The
Yep.
characters have personal qualms with certain things, and that's up to the characters. But
Hmm.
it's just like here's what it is. It's another day. They're making good money. No one's getting hurt. Yeah, until we get to the very end, and then the drama, the real issue comes to it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
just before we get to that last issue, because
of course, yeah.
we're winding down on the episode now.
Yeah, we should talk about the scene with Archie and the gentleman he goes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that we were
that's
gonna
what
bring
I
up.
wanted to talk about. Yeah. I think that that scene specifically is very good. Is it? And that's not like a very substantive critique of it, but I think that it's very very good. Um,
Yeah, I love that scene. It was excellent.
like there's this kind of trope, queer genocide, in like media that represents queer people, wherein the characters who are queer are used as essentially just like cry bait.
Hmm.
Like they're there as a prop to die because their story is implicitly more tragic. So essentially it exponentially multiplies like the sadness level and the effectiveness of a given scene. So like
Right.
the biggest example I can think of, I can't really talk about right now, because of spoiler reasons,
Sure.
for your sake, and I'm not even going to bring up anything about anything because I don't want you to get tipped off.
Okay.
But um, like I don't know, the fact that this guy was in a subordinate position to Archie, socially subordinate, sexually subordinate to Archie, who's this like experienced gay man who has been prostituting himself out for a while, knows the landscape, and enjoys the hell out of doing it.
Yeah.
And this would have been the perfect space to use that queer genocide, especially
I
against a black guy who would die in the first
You
season
thought he was gonna
episode.
get killed. You thought he was gonna get killed in that scene. So did I.
150%.
The whole time, the guy was
Yeah.
like nervous and he was hanging out, and I was like, "Don't
Yeah.
fucking kill him! Don't
Yeah.
fucking kill him!
I
Don't do this!" I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I was convinced that he was gonna murder him,
Yeah. The
because
vibe of that scene, I was like, "Fuck."
it's such a trope. It's
Yeah.
such a trope. And like, yeah, I was just really impressed with the normalcy of that scene.
It just ended up being very beautiful, and
Yeah,
I was so thankful for it.
it was a really nice scene, and it didn't feel canned. It didn't feel like over sexualized. It didn't feel like it was put in there to kind of add diversity. Like in a lot of shows you see, like in Netflix shows, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but they kind of add that kind of like gay angle to have a broader appeal, or to appear more progressive, their show to appear more progressive, when it's actually just a very minor character change that doesn't really require much at all, because gay people are normal people,
Yeah.
and you don't need to write.
A good example of that is the Umbrella Academy, the gay character in Umbrella Academy.
Oh, is that bad?
I thought the same thing. It's not that he's bad. He's a good character. There's a couple plot points about him that I loved, but just the fact that like it, I don't know, they kind of made a big deal about him being gay when they didn't need to. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it
Yeah,
was just like, oh, he's yeah. You could have removed that from his character, and he still just would have been this very eccentric person,
he's just a
and it
dude.
ultimately wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
But I felt like I don't know. It felt a little ham-fisted. I could be also misremembering it. There could be something very important about that I'm not remembering. But from my point right now, I think that's what I would use
I
here.
feel like superhero movies are typically
Superheroes a lot.
not gonna be the
Yeah.
best place for queer discourse.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be like middling at best. It's gonna be like Marvel style kind of social discourse, where instead of, making a new IP, like a new like female superhero character, they just make a male superhero character female. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, that's not making a new character. That's not doing anything. That's just changing the gender of the person. But gender doesn't actually matter. Like, a person is a fucking person.
Yeah, it's just for
Like-
points. Yeah.
Anyway, I get pissed off about Marvel. I'm sorry. I know you love them.
No, it's no. It's not. It's not that I love them enough to disagree with a lot of people's points. It's
Yeah.
that I love them enough to be like, okay, those things are all issues with the MCU. Like there's lots of issues with it, and there are lots of writing decisions and things like that that aren't super great.
Hmm.
But despite that, I just I eat it up.
You love it
I
in
eat that
despite
shit
of
up.
it. Yeah,
I
that's
love
fair
it.
enough. That's
Absolutely.
yeah, that's definitely fair. So yeah, I think we can kind of round off the end of the episode. The scene ends with the with Archie and the man,
Yeah.
the timid little meek man,
Yeah. They
incredibly
talk.
muscular, timid, meek man.
Yes. Yeah. And they ended by saying that this gentleman is an actor and Archie is a writer, and it is a very beautiful little moment about how oh hey, maybe you can be in you can act in one of my movies,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, isn't that the like the Hollywood dream, or whatever, us meeting like this, and
Hmm.
they get that's the end of the scene. I was like, oh, this was lovely. This was a really lovely little moment.
Yeah, and it didn't have anything to do with the overarching plot. Really, it was just a
Yeah.
moment. It was just a
Yeah.
scene in the middle of a show, and it was just really nice. I don't really have anything else to say about it other than,
Yeah.
like, I liked the way that it was done, and I liked what wasn't done in it and what was done
Oh,
in it.
oh, did I lose you?
No, no, I still
Okay,
have you here.
cut out for a second there. It just for me, it froze for you for a second. It might be my
Okay, no,
connection.
we're still good on the feed
Cool,
here.
cool, cool.
So yeah, I think that scene ends, and I think that there's like a montage of them doing a whole bunch of
Yeah,
jobs.
there's a little bit of a montage of just like business is booming,
Yep,
things are going
yep,
well.
things are going
Until
well until
this car pulls up with a kind of a chauffeur in the front and a affluent looking woman in the back, and Jack gets in. It's business as usual. They get taken to a hotel room, and she says, here's some cash," and he says, "Oh, no, 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 like my boss takes care of that. You pay him, he
mhm.
pays me. That's fine." She's like, "What's a tip?" It's like, "Well, we don't really do that. That's fine, please. That's okay." But she really insists. At which point I was like, "Buddy,
Yep,
these rules are here for a reason.
yep,
You're here because your boss is smarter than you think he is." So he takes like $20 from her.
yeah,
She's like, "We got him." The guy comes in. He's got a gun. They're cops. He throws him down in the bed and arrests him. And she's like, "You're under arrest for solicitation and prostitution and lewd acts."
mhm.
And the episode ends with him face down on the bed, looking out towards the window, and the camera's on his bed. And he goes, and just cuts to black, and that's
Yeah,
the end. So obviously, we will then explore the ramifications of prostitution in this era
uh huh.
in the next episode.
In
He's
the
not just been
penal system.
caught; yeah, he's been arrested.
Yeah,
So and
that.
up to this point, his wife doesn't know about any of this.
Mhm.
He's been taking great care of her, and the electricity's on again, and they can afford food. Like things are going well. She has no
Oh
idea
yeah,
what's going
we should
on, right?
mention that at some point. They're at the point, like, money wise,
Yeah, they're
where they
almost
can't afford electricity. They
yeah,
have they have twins on the way as well.
yeah.
It's revealed during the episode that they have twins, so that he needs even more money. He needs double the money that he thought he did before, and
Yeah,
plus he can't afford his electric bill. And he gets a bunch of money, ends up paying the electric bill, the water bill,
yeah.
and gives her a bunch of
Things
money for a
things
down
are
payment on a
dire.
house.
Yeah,
What's that?
things are dire, but
Yeah,
then they turn around through the power of sex magic.
yeah, through the power of sex magic, exactly. And yeah, I think there's the shot where the solicitor, I guess, like the cop, she
Hmm.
puts her badge up to the camera.
Yeah,
That was really jarring. I thought that
yeah,
was really good. I thought that was really good because he was sitting down in the scene and she's standing above him, kind of lording over him,
yeah,
and he takes the money, and there's this kind of beat where she's looking at him for a second, and you're like, oh, so this is gonna turn into like one of those other kind of like wax poetic scenes where this lady is like a failed starlet or something like that.
and
But
it's like, ha, got him.
boom, yeah, you're like right up to the screen. You're like, oh shit,
Yeah,
okay, so this is a new layer to the show now. This is a new layer to the deceit
yeah,
and to the
a good cliffhanger. It's a
yeah,
good hook for
yeah.
this first episode.
Well, I put at the end, good ending got me wanting to continue because I think that I will actually continue this show. It's surprisingly good. It's not a show to watch with my parents. I'm gonna say that.
Definitely not. Definitely.
Yeah, but
It'll
it's
make you want to start smoking cigarettes.
but oh, dude, I was vaping the entire time. I was craving so hard, man. I was
I put a note here that was like, ah, yes, back in the day when cigarettes were good for you and heckin' cool. 'Cause I wrote that because of the shot where he gets out of the car and he's just He flicks it away and like walks away
Yep.
over, and he's with his big stride and his broad shoulders. I'm just like, yeah, man.
And I
Back
think
back when cigarettes put hair in your chest.
and I think he actually smokes too. Because you can
Okay.
always tell, like you can always tell whether or not it's a real smoker or a fake smoker, because a fake smoker will go like, wait, they'll take a drag and they'll like get it out of their mouth as soon as possible because it's disgusting.
Right.
But a real
Right.
smoker will, you'll see, and then afterwards.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That was just something that I always find satisfying to see in
All
a
of the
show.
smoking in these kind of like very noir period pieces are always very cinematic.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, always
very
like bathed in like hard shadows and that sort of thing. Like
Yeah,
I love it.
it's so good. Also, I have another note here. This soundtrack makes me want to play Fallout.
Fair. Yeah,
The
it
whole
made me
time.
want to play LA Noir.
Yeah, big time Alien Noir for sure.
Yeah, 100%. This
It's the same. It's literally the exact same time period. Perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
That late 40s, early 50s. Oh,
I think
Style.
LA Noir was taking place. Was it during the war or after the war? I think that it
after
was
the war. Both of the main characters are veterans of World War II.
because I was confused as to whether or not they had been discharged, because there was the drama. There's like the army cutscenes back in the day where the
Yeah,
main character
that was-
does some bullshit.
Or maybe not the main character. Maybe he was a cop throughout the war, but I know the other character that you play as, he fought in the Pacific.
Right.
He fought against the Japanese because it cuts the cutscenes of them in fighting in the Pacific, and that's how
Right.
he's introduced.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
That
That's
makes
what it was.
sense. That makes sense.
yeah.
But yeah, it,
Yeah.
it definitely did remind me of that, of LA Noir and that whole.
Yeah, it's a super
setting.
cool time period because like 1 in 5 Americans was a combat veteran of either
Yeah.
Europe or Asia. So
Baby
Uh,
boomers taking on a whole
baby
new
boomers.
meaning.
hopping over there, yeah.
Baby boomers.
Baby boomer.
Yeah, I have a note saying just like the explicit representation of the male sex trade is interesting to
Mhm.
see, because
Very
like again, every representation of the sex trade or sex work in modern media seems to focus around downtrodden women, and almost never on like a man who's being forced to do this. And not to say that either one of those stories are more or less valuable than the
Yeah.
other, but it's
I will-
interesting to see the other side of the coin.
On that point, I would be interested to see if this show tackles female sex trade of the time at any point, because I would
Yeah.
like to see that a little bit. Like, is there like a place around here where the women work and they also are just having a good time and everything's
Yeah.
pretty okay? Like, I'm
Mhm.
interested to see what other perspectives they add in later on. I think there's 5 episodes, 6 episodes, they're all about 45 minutes apiece.
They're definitely
So-
going to expand way more
I
into
would hope
the
so.
world.
I
Yeah,
would hope so.
yeah. Well,
So yeah, I'm gonna keep watching this, and then maybe if I have more thoughts, we can talk about it later. But
yeah. Well,
thanks for
we can readdress it, like in the generalities in an introduction section or something like that, or we can just keep on going next week, something like that. We'll see. We can discuss what we want to do, if there's anything on the precipice that we really want to watch, or if we want to keep on going with this. But either way, I'm happy, because this was a great show.
I'm really happy with this. Yeah. Any other from the last minute notes before we move on?
Not that I can really think of. I think like there's lots to unpack. Like we said, like we've been going for an hour and 10, which is a bit more than what we spent on Beef House. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
Little
10-minute
less
episode.
Yeah.
10
I think the fact
yeah.
that we got 45 minutes out of a 10-minute episode speaks to the thickness of that show.
Yeah, dense, like
It's
some.
dense with content. Dense is what I was looking for.
And it's like pumpernickel bread versus some like Wonder whole wheat bread or something like that.
Yeah.
I think like the focus is kind of unclear. Overall, I think that like, is it a family drama? Is it like a crime drama? Is it like kind
Yeah,
of a
sure.
watching this guy go about his antics and like see how he makes his way through the world? Is it a hybrid mishmash? But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Hybrid mishmash is a little worrying to me, considering
agree.
like the breadth of focus that they can achieve within a limited series. But then again, you see shows like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad broach all of those subjects within 2 seasons, or within a season. So you never know. You never know how it's gonna play out. And I'm interested to see how the rest of the season plays out. I was definitely very happy with this episode. I was pleasantly surprised.
I was too. I
Yeah.
was pretty stoked after finishing it. I was like, oh fuck, that was actually very good.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It had a good message to it. It had a lot of things to say, seemingly. Maybe saying those things in the absence of not saying, or in the absence of other things, like not including like queer genocide or like race genocide, like that sort of thing within the concept.
Or not including them as a cheap
Yeah.
achievement for some kind of emotional or impact or something like that. That's what I appreciated.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
if they were to have killed off Archie's character in the first episode, I would not have cared because there's no connection to him. Like it's like taking a character that doesn't have any bearing on the story and then assuming that they're going to have like people are going to have an emotional evocation from that death despite having absolutely no context to it. It's like hearing
That kind of
some
stuff
guy,
bothers me.
pardon me.
That kind of stuff always bothers me.
Yeah, like hearing okay, Sam, Brad died.
Oh shit, who's Brad?
Sam,
I mean,
Brad, your friend, oldest friend, drama partner,
fuck.
died.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the
Right.
war.
Shit.
He survived scabies, and he killed
my
several
army
sperm
buddy?
whales on his
My
own,
army buddy
single-handedly. Yeah, your army buddy, Brad.
Oh shit. Oh fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super devastated, but also like, what do you want to watch tonight? You want me to order for dinner though? We gotta go back to the crux of the episode really quick.
Oh, we're gonna start an Easter next episode. We're gonna start out with an Easter fashion party or something like that.
Easter fashion show. Your world famous Easter fashion show.
Exactly. All right, man. Do you have any other concluding notes on this show?
No, I don't think I do. I think I would definitely recommend this if anybody's on the fence about it. Give it a
100%.
watch.
Yeah.
Especially I would say if you already have a passing interest or more in the time period and in the queer experience or the experience of like gigolos of the time period, like check this out.
Actors, like the
fun.
experience of actors in film.
Industry, the Hollywood at the time, there are a couple things about this that you'd go, oh fuck. It's pretty interesting.
It's definitely a period piece. Like
Very
definitely a period piece. Like it's very specific to the era, 100%. You couldn't make that in New York in 1980s. You couldn't make that movie anywhere else but 1950s. Or you can't make that show anywhere but 1950s LA. Yeah. So yeah, I think this was a good episode, our good first episode, and yeah, and I'm happy with the discussions, and if you guys all enjoyed it, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that alert button. You know, we're gonna be getting a podcast out every single week. This is a scheduled exercise for both Atlas and I, and this has been a great time. It's always good chatting with you, man. Love you.
Always good chatting with you too, buddy. I love you. We'll talk after this about what we watch next week, and we'll start getting these out to people.
Absolutely.
Super.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good thing, man. All right,
buddy.
Everybody, signing off.
Stay safe out there. Be good to yourselves. Sex work is real work.
Sex work is real work. Stay safe and stay based. Have a good night, folks. All right, peace.